in the Ellisville, Wildwood area, coming out of between 109 and Olive. Going to go right over the top Gulf area. I'm going to do something here. We're going to switch it up real fast and go to the terminal Doppler radar because we actually get faster imagery from the terminal Doppler. And so when we're looking at this, you can see how all of a sudden this storm just kind of made that little notch in there coming up. So you've got some kind of rotation here heading towards Chesterfield. Again, Clarkson Road's here, Olive here. This area is the area to be concerned about as it's lifting to the north and to the northeast. Now I'm going to pop it to the velocity mode here in from the radar here at the out at, let me go back up here, out at the airport. This is the terminal Doppler. St. Louis is lucky because we have two radars that we can scan with. The one is so close to it right now that you're not really getting a good picture of it. But here it is coming towards Chesterfield. So that's coming right towards Chesterfield Mall, and that circulation just updated a little bit. Highway 6440, you know where we've got the merge there, where they're splitting the lanes and doing the road work there? That's our circulation. This is radar indicated at this point. So we have radar indicated circulation and rotation. Based on how this is moving and how that circulation's moving, we're talking just barely scooting by here into St. Charles County. I'm going to stop this for a minute. We're going to get in a little bit closer here and kind of pinpoint what we're thinking as to where you really need to be in your safe place. Okay, so here we are in Chesterfield. That circulation's kind of right in here. So West Drive, west along Olive and west of Olive here, as you go north of 64, this is an area of big concern. That's going to take it up towards Creve Coeur Park and in the Creve Coeur Lake area with this circulation. Again, we're kind of looking at it here from a different vantage point. This is the terminal Doppler that the airport used. And now we have a confirmed tornado on it. So they have observed a tornado with that right now. Although we don't have actually why they did that. They're working on letting us know at the moment. But they have an observed tornado with this now.
Yeah, if that pops up, I'll let you know.
Yeah, and I'll pop it back over here to the to the debris to see if we see what's in the debris. And I think there it is. That's what we're seeing right now. You've got the drop out there. So we know that it lofted something here as it's been moving off towards the northeast. And actually, you could have a couple of dropouts there that might be interesting. Let's take a look. No, it would be that one. So that's your debris there. I think this is too far to the east to be actual debris. That would be right over Olive, though, so it's very close, awfully close. From a standpoint here, this is close into the radar. Looks like that circulation was there. Again, a tornado warning. Really, Jimmy, not expecting this today, although we knew we would have some potentially stronger storms, but we did not anticipate a severe threat and certainly not a tornadic threat because it's marginal conditions for that. But based on this spin in here, again, if you're along Olive and west of Olive, the way this thing is moving out and kind of, you see it going just like that. It's surging out. The rear flank downdraft is pulling in like that. So you're basically looking at that circulation working its way now across and north of 64 as it's moving off towards the northeast. So this is observed by the radar, okay? Once again, we'll look at the terminal Doppler, get a quicker, because we're getting more images of the terminal Doppler. We get this every minute. So you can really see how this has evolved and moved. And that circulation in here, crossing Chesterfield Airport Road, now going to cross the Missouri River. Again, this is the area here. It's kind of a remote, more remote area into St. Charles County. You got a lot of farm fields here. Greens Bottom Road, I think Teese Farms is right there. But that's where this is headed. And that's why St. Charles County, that's why the sirens went off in St. Charles County. That's the only part of St. Charles County where this is a problem. The rest of it's going to be going towards Maryland Heights, Creve Coeur Park, in that vicinity as the surge comes out like that, and your rotation is right in here, right over Chesterfield, right over the Missouri River. The Missouri River, the sand Company is right there as well. And so this is moving northeastbound. It's going to go across the Page Avenue extension. If you're along and west of 141, I'd say if you're north of Olive, west of 141, and up towards Creve Coeur Park, those are the areas where you need to be in your safe place right now. So let's get in tight. Let's pinpoint where we're thinking this is going. Again, our circulation, we believe somewhere in this general vicinity here, based on what we've seen so far. That's where we think the current circulation is. That's going to be taking it right along the Missouri River. This is the Page Avenue extension here, 141 here. So you've got all of your areas right here with the soccer fields. You've got homes here. St. Luke's Hospital's here. It's going to stay west of St. Luke's Hospital. Probably that circulation is going to stay west, the circulation itself, west of Del Mar Gardens there, but you're getting the stronger winds wrapping in around that as well as that rear flank downdraft kind of pulls that air in and tries to circulate it. So that's where our spin is in here right now. So the National Weather Service saying this is an observed tornado at this point. We go back to looking at the regular radar that you're used to looking at. And it looks like we also got a flash flood warning in there for much of St. Charles County here with that torrential rain that's been ongoing there. Rainfall rates running 3 to 6 inches an hour. And obviously you're not getting all of that, but that's going to be a problem too when you have flooding and you have that circulation rolling in there. Jimmy.
Yeah, so the only thing that they're saying at the Weather Service here is that they've indicated debris on the debris tracker. So that's just southwest of the Chesterfield area. So again, we're watching this move northeast at about 35 miles an hour. And that's why they've indicated that there's some debris being lofted into the air. Again, southwest of Chesterfield, moving northeast at about 35 miles an hour. So that's why they put an observed tornado on this as it moves close to Chesterfield. You want to be in your safe spot right now, anywhere in this area here, in that tornado warning. And we'll get a tracker on this. Scotty will do that here also, give you times on where it's headed and when. We're working on that right now for sure. Thank you for that. So again, watching the debris ball or debris area that's been indicated southwest of Chesterfield. Likely trees at this point because it's out in an open area, but it's moving into a more populated area. So again, watching right around Chesterfield in this region here as Scotty's just about to track it out for you. So Fern Ridge at 307, Maryland Heights 311. And again, all these areas, you want to be in your safe spot. Bridgeton 318, 320 St. John, Hazelwood at 321 if it holds together as it moves northeast at about 35 miles an hour, Scotty.
Okay, and let's talk just briefly about the tornado areas that we are dealing with right now where you have the cleanup ongoing in the city. Okay, you know, I want you in your safe place if you're out here west of 141. You know, here's Riverport. You're kind of on the fringes of it. Maryland Heights, the soccer fields along 141. Here's, you know, Page Avenue Extension, Creve Coeur Park. This is the area where we're seeing the circulation now. We may also have some stronger winds in here that are kind of whipping out ahead as that rear flank downdraft comes in. But let's just talk for a minute about where our storm was on May 16th, okay? We want you in your safe place out here. And really, if you're in the polygon, you know, in the city, eastern portions of St. Louis County, you've got a couple of minutes here before it gets there. But for the folks dealing with the tornado cleanup from May 16th, this does not look like it's that strong, okay? That's number one. Number two, it looks like the track of that circulation will stay to the north and west of you. There'll still be some gusty winds in here as well as the system pulls on towards the east and to the northeast. As we look at the debris tracker, there's a couple of areas dropping out. There's one near Chesterfield, but I'm thinking this one is more of the one where we're seeing the dropout, which would be in that area right along the river, right along Greens Bottoms, right by Teese Farm there. And that's headed towards the Page Avenue extension, probably staying just east and southeast of the Page Avenue, extension bridge there as you go into St. Charles. So you're not in the warning there. This is surged out. You see it kind of wrapping up here. And the warning, again, when I'm looking at this, I'm seeing this area right in here where we're getting the surge, okay? And it's almost on the northern side of this polygon. So that's the area I want to track out for you and just kind of really focus on this area. And even though Spanish Lake, you're not in this tornado warning right now, we'd still want you to be in your safe spot as this moves in the general direction. Florissant's in the warning, Berkeley's in the warning, obviously the airport's in the warning, Maryland Heights, Fern Ridge, you're in the warning. The circulation looks like it's more in this general vicinity, but you're getting that surge coming out here farther southwest of St. Louis. Let's go back to the terminal Doppler and look at that, and you can kind of see, we'll just back it up here a few frames. We'll go back and forth together doing this, and you can kind of see how this has been surging out. Okay, so that surge puts that very close to the northern side of where this polygon is. And, even though we're not in the warning in the city of St. Charles, just based on the fact, look what's happening here. You got one storm up here by Harvester, you have another one down to the south, the one that actually has a circulation. These two storms are going to try to merge here in the next few minutes. When storms merge, that also creates problems. So if you're in, I just said.
And a little bit of good news, the velocity couplet is much less strong. Ben Herzog says Weather Service, and we see that, right? It's so they suspect that the tornado has already ended, but that said, we still need to continue to watch this.
Okay. Well, and yeah, definitely. And right along the Missouri River here, even though you're not technically in the warning along, by the arena, by the St. Charles Family Arena, even though you're not technically in that warning, we still want you to be mindful that this is a strong storm and be inside, away from windows and doors at this point, because sometimes these storms do take somewhat erratic paths. Now, again, we're looking here from the terminal Doppler radar, so it looks a little bit different than when we're looking at the usual weather impact Doppler, but you can see that surge that came out, and with that surge, the circulation that was there, and now that circulation is not as defined as it was just a little bit ago. Let's look at the velocity here, and we have a couple of areas. Probably the one that's standing out the most is that one right there. This is the area that we've been watching. It's not as tight as it was. That's good, right? So it looks like it's broadening out a little bit, and it is moving to the northeast. You also have another circulation here back to the west, down towards Chesterfield, but I think that one is past. Now, I think the main area is what's up here farther to the north that is causing us problems. So again, we're not so much concerned about the city of St. Louis at this point. So if you are in the Richmond Heights area, right now, it does not look like you have a tornado headed for you. If you're in the area that was hit by the tornado on May 16th in the city, it does not look like you have a tornado heading to you at this moment. What it looks like is it's staying north and west of those areas. We look at this, and again, the circulation couplet that we're seeing is right on the northern fringes here of this tornado polygon, which extends here basically just along Greens Bottom Road and then over in towards Maryland Heights to include Creve Coeur Park. And this is going to be very close to going over Creve Coeur Park. It's probably going to stay just to the west. The amphitheater, I would be concerned out there in Earth City. You should be in your safe place here. You're 5 minutes away or so from this being into Earth City and causing some problems there, all right, potentially, if it stays on the ground and if this continues. So I think we'll probably see them drop the observed and go back to just a regular tornado warning here. But again, it's here and going up here. It is not over the same areas that had the tornado on May 16th. Okay, you're still going to get some heavy rainfall, which is what we anticipated with this system, but it's not in the same area, okay? Let's pop it back, watch this storm evolve. You can see how when one storm merged in here, that was just enough to kick the spin up. The environment's not overly conducive for severe weather today. We're not that warm. We're definitely muggy, but we're not that warm, and the winds aloft are not that strong. So while we were expecting some stronger thunderstorms, I think what we're going to end up seeing in the city, and there you go, we're back to just the regular tornado warning now.
And they trimmed it up quite a bit. So
Yeah.
Wildwood, Chesterfield, you're now in the clear.
Yeah,
which is
once
good news.
this leading edge goes by, that's where anything that's circulating is going to be. So even though it's still pouring at the Boom Bridge, there's no threat of severe weather there now. Now notice the flash flood warning in effect here along 94 and along the Page Avenue extension 364 out through Cottleville, out towards Darden Prairie. This area has seen rainfall rates of 4 to 6 inches an hour. Not that that much fell, but at those rates, you can't drain it that fast. So you've got drenching, you got a big time ponding on the road. So that's why we have flash flood warning in effect there. For our tornado warning, again, the storm's still showing signs of some circulation in here and some rotation. That appears to be off to the northwest of Maryland Heights. The way this thing's wrapping up, Jimmy, it wouldn't surprise me if it ended up kind of getting really close to St. Charles. I'm going to give you a track, and it's going to be a little bit outside, perhaps, the polygon that's actually in effect right now. But I am going to bring it right there over, St. Charles. It's going to be really close to St. Charles. It's going northeast bound. So Hazelwood, you are in the path of this circulation. Of course, if you've lived here for any amount of time, you know this area of St. Louis County is kind of almost like a mini tornado alley. We get a lot of storms that move from southwest to northeast and roll through these areas. So at 323 in Hazelwood, Cross Keys at 331, up to Blackjack at 334. Torrential rain falling with this storm too. That is really going to slow things down as we head through the afternoon hours for sure. But again, the circulation, which is right in here at the moment, this circulation right in here is much weaker than what it was just a few minutes ago. So that's good news. Nonetheless, the rotation's still there.
And
Moving
Scotty,
into
a brand new
Maryland.
warning until 4 o'clock, and you're right, it includes now St. Charles County, but eastern St. Charles County. It's right over St. Charles there, if you see that.
Yeah.
A new tornado warning just issued, moving northeast at 20 miles an hour. So this right over St. Charles, actually, a little bit of rotation there too. So it's
Yeah.
a separate area.
There's a separate area, but it's not as defined. It's right in here,
Right.
where you would see potentially some sort of surge out. And again, we just had storms merging. When you have storms merging, they do wonky things. And sometimes you get those dangerous twisting of the winds in there. So the main circulation for the initial warning there, this is your second circulation that potentially is showing up right now near St. Charles. Again, that is not as impressive as the one that's rolling right now towards and over the Veterans Bridge there on 364, going out of St. Charles into Maryland Heights at the moment. So again, when we look at this and we go back and we just kind of watch these storms merge, where we have the surging out here, we've surged that out and pushed that into St. Charles County. And so you folks in St. Charles County, especially, St. Peter's, you don't have to, you're fine. You're getting a lot of rain. You got problems with water, and you may have some gusty winds, 40 to 50 miles per hour. But it's really where this kind of surge is, that rear flank downdraft still trying to push that storm out and trying to drag that warm, moist air in and make it rotate and go up into the clouds. So I'm going to give you a track on this one that would be approaching St. Charles. And right now, if it's going to be somewhere, and Jeffrey, I don't know if you can pull up Main Street, St. Charles here in a few minutes on the cameras, but there's the airport. I know your sirens went off in Wentzville. No problems. Your sirens went off in New Melle. no problems. You were well behind this storm. St. Peter's, Dardenne Prairie, Lake St. Louis, you're well behind the storm, right? This is for eastern portions of St. Charles County, taking it up towards Boshertown, taking it up towards West Alton, and even though Alton's not in a tornado warning, it would eventually get to Alton here in the next few minutes, by 3:43, so a half an hour or so from now, because the storm's moving that fast. Let's take a broader perspective here. There's only 3 warnings on our map, okay? The tornado warnings that we have in St. Charles County and in St. Louis County, and really I think we could drop it out of St. Louis City, although you never know what's going to happen on the backside of these storms down here. But the immediate threat is more right along the Missouri River at Interstate 70 and going northeast from there, okay? Flash flood warnings in effect out here for much of the rest of St. Charles County and a portion of western St. Louis County. These storms farther south and southwest, they're not severe. They're strong. We're also seeing some storms here off to the southeast of St. Louis. They're strong. They're not severe at this point. So the big focus is really around the metro area right now, and really with these storms as they've been merging and surging across St. Charles County and northwestern portions of St. Louis County, Jimmy.
Yeah, and Scotty, again, the tornado warning for St. Louis County, that area, as opposed to the St. Charles County area. Again, this one looks like it's weakening so much that even the Weather Service is not even concerned about it. Then you get up to the one around St. Charles, that rotation's getting a little bit more defined, but not as defined as the one that was over Chesterfield that is now weakening.
Yeah.
So that likely will be allowed to expire. And we're just kind of focusing in on this area around St. Charles and just seeing if that gets any tighter. And if it is a tornado, it's going to be short-lived and very weak as it moves to the northeast. Again, Veterans Memorial Parkway, that rotation is right over there. So right along Interstate 70 and moving more towards 370 and 94. So if there is a tornado, again, radar indicator rotation, not a confirmed rotator, not a confirmed tornado at this point, but it is a bit of rotation that we're watching carefully.
Yeah, and I think at this point, what we're looking at here with that circulation that's, pretty much over 70 in Veterans Memorial Parkway here, streets of St. Charles in that area, that's moving northeast bound. That is the primary circulation now that's taken over that we're continuing to watch. I just want to bring, because I know we've got a lot of folks in St. Louis in the city and in Richmond Heights and, in the area that was hard hit by the tornado on May 16th. All right, what we are not seeing along this leading edge is any real strong gate-to-gate shear or anything from a radar standpoint that looks like we're having anything surging immensely out. You're going to get a lot of rain, okay? It's going to pour. There may be some gusty winds in there to 40 to 50 miles per hour. But I think our threat from a tornado is going to be limited to if we can get a surge like we're seeing in Overland right now. That's a little bit of a surge coming out. We'll watch that. Nothing to be definitive about yet, but a surge coming out there that we'll watch. And then also what's happening in St. Charles now as this is moving on. Let's give you a track, and Jimmy, I'm going to pull this back and we're going to just track the whole line. So the line of the worst part of the storm, okay, and it's moving more east and northeast here. And I've pulled it well east, okay? If you're hearing thunder right now, and you're in St. Louis County, St. Louis City, if you're inside, away from windows and doors, you're doing everything right, okay? This is not going to be a massive tornado. This would be quick spin-up kind of tornadoes on this scenario that we're seeing. The ingredients are not there for a massive tornado. But we're extending this out farther over here into Madison County in particular, Bethalto, Wood River, Alton, even into North St. Louis County, Spanish Lake, Glasgow Village. You've got time. You have a little bit of time before it's going to get there. Not a lot, but a little bit of time before it's going to arrive in your area. So we want you to still be safe inside, away from windows and doors, preferably the lowest level. But what we are not seeing as we pop the radar back on here is a lot of tight circulations showing up anywhere. Okay, probably the only one that is really showing up is the one that's over St. Charles right now. You still have kind of this broad circulation that's over Maryland Heights. That's getting close to the airport. There's Main Street in St. Charles. You got a storm. I mean, it's pouring, and you've got some gusty winds in there. And I think you're going to see that, the sheets of rain whipping across the area, the cloud-to-ground lightning. If we have anything developing as far as the spin in these storms, our anticipation is it's not going to last as long. I think we probably had our best opportunity when that storm was over Wildwood and Ellisville before it got to Chesterfield. And now I think you're just going to look at things that maybe try to spin quickly. So, you know, along and north of 70 here in St. Charles, east of St. Peter's, okay? St. Peter's, you're not going to get a tornado in St. Peter's. It's staying off to your east. Any rotation, any circulation is staying off to your east there in St. Peter's. There's another quick look at this overall kind of band. We had the surge come in with the wind, and with that surge, we call it the rear flank downdraft, kind of coming in and surging in, pushing the storm out, and then creating a notch and creating a circulation. That notch has now made its way back towards St. Charles and is moving to the north and to the northeast. But even though it's there right now, you're not seeing a lot of tight rotation in here. And again, I'm thinking, you know, for the city of St. Louis in particular, I just don't see a whole lot here that concerns me.
And there's the picture there of St. Louis Lambert International Airport, where you're seeing obviously extremely heavy rain and lots of lightning with these. And like Scotty was saying, that tornado warning that's over the airport right now likely expiring and will not be reissued here when it ends at about 3:30 p.m. But with that, you get lots of rain, lightning, and probably some strong gusty winds within that. So again, that concern for any rotation now is basically over eastern St. Charles County.
Yeah, and this is a look from the St. Charles camera. So there's Interstate 70, and you can see it's at a crawl right now, incredibly slow moving. But we have a lot of rain here. I'm trying to look at my trees, and I'll come out here so I can maybe get a better look at the trees. I don't see a lot of wind on the ground with the trees here in St. Charles. And it wasn't a huge amount of wind that we saw in downtown St. Charles. I think this is more rain at this point now than it is a wind bag. And we're still tracking the potential that we'll get some circulations in here. And, you know, and it is still kind of, you know, surging out here along 170 coming into the city. So we have to watch those surges, because if there's a certain balance that gets achieved, you know, when one of those surges comes in, when that rear flank downdraft surges out, if you can get a little balance, you can ingest and make the storm rotate, okay? So that's what we're looking at there. I think the bigger concern is the heavier rain, and also focus back here more into St. Charles County versus into St. Louis County. There's nothing on this velocity scan that has me overly concerned looking into North St. Louis County, looking into the areas that were hit by the tornado on May 16th, all right? But for those of you in St. Charles County, we are still seeing some rotation in there, and given the fact that this storm appeared to put down a tornado a little bit ago, you know, that continues to have us concerned. Now, as far as the debris detector, there's not a lot for us to discern there that looks overly dramatic. As far as the shear detection, right where we've been saying here, you know, near the airport back out towards St. Charles, and that tends to lag a little bit, that's the only spot. But again, it's on the low side from what, you know, what we would think, what we would anticipate there as being a problem. So we still have those two tornado warnings. Notice we've gone from the observed tornado back to the regular tornado warning. This is the one in St. Louis expires at 3:30, right, Jimmy?
Yes, that one expires
So-
at 3:30, and they are sheltering in place at the airport, as
Yeah.
they should be.
Yes, exactly. Well, and the airport's getting the heaviest rain right now. Be interesting to see what the winds are like at the airport. And then again, you look out towards our city and then going west into St. Charles, and this is where some of the worst of it is here, as far as that whole, look at the whole thing just kind of spinning, the whole storm just kind of spinning right now. But then within that embedded area of larger spin, we're not finding any really tight circulations, and you need those tight circulations to have a tornado. So we're getting a lot of broad spin. The whole storm is spinning, which that happens, and it makes for strong storms for sure. But all of our ingredients today are not there as you would expect them to be for significant severe weather across the area. That's why there's no severe thunderstorm watch. That's why there was no tornado watch for this today. You see the visibility at the airport has picked up and improved just a little bit there within the last couple of minutes.
So a trooper reporting heavy damage to trees and residences on Highway 109 and Blum Farm Road.
Okay.
So that's earlier when we saw that couplet and also
Yes.
the debris tracker. So that was earlier, but there is some damage from that. Again, southwest, it looks like, of the Chesterfield area.
Okay, yeah, and that would have been there. Let's see.
Nothing new as in terms of any observed tornadoes on the ground,
Correct.
which is fantastic.
Flood-prone issues have been more of the, farther west. We're really into that. I'm looking at Chesterfield. The Chesterfield at Spirit of St. Louis, they've picked up a quick half-inch of rain. Their peak wind was 35 miles per hour there at the airport. And I'm going to look at Lambert and see what Lambert has. And see.
So the tornado warning in northern St. Louis County, again, expiring here in just a few minutes.
Yeah.
About 4 more minutes.
They're going to let that expire. Lambert's top wind, it looks like, has been 23 miles per hour. So not exceptional there. Again, the part of this storm that we've been most concerned about here in the last 10 or 15 minutes is really this part that's been kind of moving along the Missouri River, and you still have that surge out, but as we looked a few minutes ago, we didn't see a huge amount of wind with it, at least not at the ground. Upstairs at cloud level, yeah, in the clouds, there's a lot of wind, but near the ground, not so much so. Broad circulations here, broad, very broad circulations. So they're not tight. And when you have those tight circulations, that's when you get the spin-ups. Now, having said that, storms have minds of their own. They do their own thing, okay? You just got an update there. You can see how the whole storm is just kind of rotating in there. There's nothing here that says, all along this line that says, hey, it's something to be really concerned about. There's wind that's close to the airport. There's some wind on the back side of this, it looks like, that might be coming into downtown St. Charles right now on the back side of this, if it's reaching the ground. We don't know if it's actually reaching the ground. We know it's up in the clouds. That's where you see those brighter greens and the brighter reds there. And that tornado warning for St. Charles will continue for a while longer, and that's going to stretch through far northern portions of St. Louis County as well. Again, not anything confirmed at this point. More of radar indicated and less of a radar indicated tornado with this. That being said, we still want you to stay inside, away from windows and doors. This is not going to be something like the May 16th tornado. That's not happening today. Okay, those ingredients are not there. That is not going to happen today. But you will be looking at some of that heavier rain pushing into these areas where the cleanup is ongoing here. It's already started to rain across much of the city now, and the heavier rain is going to be pushing in and surging in. And with that, you will likely see some wind gusts that run 30 to maybe 40 miles per hour. Okay, so make sure those tarps are strapped down and as rain tight as you can get them in that area. But we're not going to see another tornado sliding into this area at least not imminently. We just can't see it out of what we're seeing right now on the radar. There is torrential rain in here. The heaviest area of rain right now is along 370 and along 70 and then along 270 through North St. Louis County. So you can expect significant travel delays in those areas because it's coming down so fast and furious right now, it can't drain off the highways. All right? But again, the threat for a significant tornado is exceedingly low. We never say zero when it comes to St. Louis weather because it's St. Louis weather. But I would say if we're going to see anything out of this system where the tornado warning is still in effect here for far northern portions of St. Louis County, and again, that's basically along and north of Lindbergh here in North County. If you're going to see anything, it's going to be very brief, very fast, spinning up quickly, and then moving on. We're not seeing that right now. Nonetheless, the tornado warning in effect there. The only damage we've had so far is from what troopers reported, Kay, and I think you getting some more information on that?
I do, Scott. I'm not sure if my mic is on, but National Weather Service reporting large trees snapped, a roof or side of a garage heavily damaged, and debris strewn. That is in Wildwood, in that area you've been talking about, where they were also reporting a thunderstorm about 2:51 this afternoon. We also have report of very heavy rain, and that is Jacob Station Road near Towers Road, and that is in Harvester. Neighborhood yards said to have 1 foot of water in them. Does that even seem possible?
Sure. Well, it was raining at 4 to 6 inches an hour, that kind of rainfall rate. Not that you're getting all that, but you get that much rainfall. And in the wet ground that we've had recently, not uncommon, especially in the poor drainage areas, and in the fact that that was right, where Kay's talking about, it's right in this area here where you had the most intense part of the storm and that rotation right over you. And so that combination really puts down a lot of rain very quickly. That's why we have the flash flood warning in effect here for parts of St. Charles County and northern St. Louis County because of that very heavy rainfall.
And Scotty, yes. I pulled up a map here to show you exactly where that damage is that the troopers reporting. So I'm off camera, but it's east of Babbler State Park. It's on 109 at Blum Farm Road. That's in between, just south of Spirit and north of Wildwood, and just east of Babbler State Park.
Okay. All right. And that would have been what we would have seen with the debris signature. You loft up some trees and some debris. That's what you're going to see. This is the broad picture. All right. There are no other severe thunderstorms in our area right now. There are strong thunderstorms around the area, but nothing severe at the moment across most of the area, with the exception of the storm that's here in St. Charles County that's moving towards Madison County. Again, far northern portions of St. Louis County and in the northern portions of, or eastern portions really, of St. Charles County. We still want you in your safe place just to be on the safe side. It doesn't look like there's anything imminent. We're not seeing big rotation there. So nothing imminent there. But this line of storms going down to the south is producing some torrential rainfall. Also of note, off to the east of St. Louis, these storms are beginning to develop. The ones that are west of Nashville here in Washington County in Illinois, moving northeastbound towards Interstate 64. This area may have had a chance to just heat up a little more, so they may have a little more energy to work with here as we go through the next hour or two. So that's also something else that we'll be monitoring here. Tornado warning over for the city of St. Louis and for most of St. Louis County. Far north St. Louis County continuing in that tornado warning, and then stretching over towards West Alton, and then stretching back towards the Orchard Farm area. But again, you see the surge where this whole storm, the whole storm itself, I mean, you can just see the whole storm itself is just rotating, okay? That's not necessarily going to produce a tornado. It's a big rotating storm. And it will be on the leading edge, or if we can get any surges to go out ahead of that, where we may have some problems, going forward here in the next hour or two. I don't think it's a huge problem, but I'm going to put this, there's absolutely nothing on here. This is your This is your big broad rotation. That's a big broad rotation. That's not a tornado. That's your whole storm rotating, not a tornado there. Okay, big broad circulation. There is nothing at the leading edge of this that really makes us overly concerned right now that something is in the process of spinning up. Even looking down into the city, there's nothing that really is overly concerning. You've got the heavy rain. That's why there's that flash flood warning in effect right now. And that does stretch all the way from about Francis Howell High School and just across the river there towards Babbler State Park, and then right on through the area along 64. Now, you'll start to drain some of that water pretty quickly as we go through the next hour or two, but I do think, you know, there are travel issues associated with that because creeks and streams have risen exceedingly rapidly by those rainfall rates that we had, and that creates some problems. Plus, as you're looking, you know, along Greens Bottom Road where some of that heaviest rain went through, that's low-lying areas as well. And so that becomes an issue because there's no place really for the water to go. A lot of our water tables are high right now because of that record rainfall we had back in April. Kay, what do you know?
We know that there's a problem in Chesterfield at Strecker Road, west of Kerrs Mill. That is blocked by downed trees at this point, and power lines have also come down. That's in the Gumbo Flats area, really near the Gumbo Flats, Strecker Road, west of Kerrs Mill. Again, we still have snap trees, roof or garage damage on a property in Wildwood, and the flooding you've been talking about, Jacob Station Road at Towers Road, neighborhood yards with a foot of water in them. These are just preliminary reports. You know how this happens. We'll just keep getting reports as time goes on, and either first responders or neighbors have time to call these things in.
Right, and that's, you know, initially, whenever we have something touched down, which we believe we did, there, you know, Ellisville area, southwest of Chesterfield, kind of in that area along 109, the first responders are the folks that get the first phone call, and we don't always hear from them right away because they're there and providing the need and the aid to the people that need it and making sure everything is secure and making sure everybody's staying safe. So a lot of times our reports are delayed. Now, we do know we had debris lofted, so that's why it was an observed tornado there for a bit. Again, we don't think it was a big tornado per se, but even some of those, you know, spin-ups, if you get them, even though they're not particularly large, certainly not like the mile, you know, nearly mile-wide tornado we had on May 16th. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about small, quick spin-up storms. They're still capable, if they take a direct hit at your house, of creating problems. The good news is that we don't see that along this line right now. Everything we're seeing along this line is basically heavy rainfall and winds that aren't exceptionally strong right now. Yes, there are still gusty winds in here, 30 to maybe 40 miles per hour or so. That's what we had at the Chesterfield Airport when the storm went through. There's torrential rain. The tornado warning continuing because you never know if a storm's going to cycle and be able to generate another dangerous area of twisting wind that we have to be concerned about. But right now, the immediate threat is much lower than it was from just a few minutes ago as we continue to track these storms across the area. I will give you the track of the leading edge of the worst of this. And I'm just going to pull this across because it does include, you know, it's now crossing the Mississippi River, the leading edge in some cases. So it's almost into Alton right now. I mean, it's raining in Alton, but you're going to get the heavier. This is the heavy rain. This is where it gets torrential rain, and the gusty winds. Godfrey, 342, so in a couple of minutes here. Bethalto by 351, maybe in the next 10 minutes. Even over to Dorsey, Edwardsville, Hamel, Illinois, taking this off to the east and to the northeast. Now, the environment here, again, is not overly favorable for these storms to twist and create that dangerous twisting. The possibility with any thunderstorm is that that can happen, and sometimes it does. And even though our environment wasn't great today, I think that's what happened here out in West St. Louis County. As we look into the storms down to the south, as they continue to trudge off to the northeast, I think we are going to get into a period where some of us see heavy rain over and over. So this is where we may end up with our 1, 2, 3 inches of rain here just this evening, and we may end up with some additional flooding problems across the area as well. So that's something that to be mindful of, and especially southwest of St. Louis, as we're starting to see this activity pick up to our southwest, as this moves northeast bound and continues to go over the same areas, that means our low water crossings tend to come up, and that can pose a problem as well. So this tornado warning that's in effect for St. Charles County, I think that's going to be allowed to expire here momentarily.
At 4 o'clock.
At 4 o'clock, I wouldn't be surprised if they let it go a little sooner than that. But, you know, you can see the whole the storm itself is spinning. It was along that leading edge that we had the problems, and right now we are not seeing anything other than this broad circulation there in the middle of the rain that would seem to indicate that we have any big problems. And I don't think you're going to get that to tighten up in that rain field that we were looking at there. Not that it can't, but I don't think we will. But if we did, I'm going to give you a track.
And power outages, Scotty, about 4,690 without power in St. Charles County, and then St. Louis County, about 1,000.
Okay, so there you go. So this is where, you know, we're talking up Old Jamestown Road. So you're, again, far north St. Louis County, and then over here into eastern portions, just along 94, the very rural sections of eastern St. Charles County. If there was going to be something circulating, it would be rain-wrapped, you wouldn't see it. But again, from what we're seeing on the radar, there's not a lot of tight spinning in here at all. There's a very broad circulation, but not a lot of tight spinning right now. And so that's good. The storms that are coming into North St. Louis County and into, you know, central St. Louis County, it's pouring. A lot of the areas that dealt with the tornado on May 16th are now dealing with torrential rains and maybe some 25 to 35 mile per hour wind gusts. You have heavy rain in Creve Coeur back towards De Pere, down to Shrewsbury. So 44 in particular, going out of the city, you really pick up some of that heavier rain. It's moving northeast, so your really heavy rain will be moving in and across. You know, Richmond Heights is where that tornado pretty much touched down on May 16th. So you're really going to get some torrential rain over those tornado damaged areas from a couple of weeks ago here in the next 15 to 20 minutes or so. Just a quick broad view across the entire area here. No imminent tornado threat that we can tell. We're not seeing any circulations that are grabbing our attention on that storm in St. Charles. But here as we look along this line, we'll watch for the potential very heavy rainfall and some gusty winds, maybe 40 to 50 miles per hour. We'll also watch the area off to the east of St. Louis as it continues to develop here west of Nashville. But the imminent concern has really been in the immediate metro area where we had that initial tornado warning and what we believe a tornado touching down not too far from Babbler State Park out there in Ellisville. So everything moving northeast, it looks like it's weakening a little bit compared to where we were earlier.
Yeah, no downstream warning is expected to be reissued. So the good news is, like Scotty's been saying, this has been weakening. They're going to continue this warning. It's in northeastern St. Charles County and extreme northern portions of St. Louis County, right around Shackelford Road and let's say a New Halls Ferry right through here. But we don't have, it's been about a half an hour to about 35 minutes since a tornado was on the ground. Again, we are watching that down south of Chesterfield and around Ellisville and also Wildwood, and then it lifted. And then that new warning over St. Charles County, this one never really did produce a touchdown as far as we know. So again, one more warning, or one warning continues until about 4 p.m. They're going to continue that, and then a downstream warning from that, not likely because it's weakening, but we still have to watch the leading edge of this with that rotation that we've seen throughout the day today. And even earlier in the afternoon, Scotty, we were seeing a little rotation within a couple of cells, but it was very weak.
Yeah.
So then it got a little bit bigger, and that main line produced the tornado.
Well, once you merge a couple of cells, anytime cells merge, anytime storms that are individually acting storms, whenever they merge, you never know how they're going to interact. And in this case, they interacted badly for some folks that live out in the Ellisville area, somewhere along Highway 109 near Babbler, in that vicinity. We have crews that are working on getting the damage there. Kay, what's the latest you can tell us on that?
Well, we're seeing a pattern with some of the damage now. Chesterfield definitely popping up again as far as that's concerned. A possible tree into a house now at Chesterfield Farm and Estates. And so we are working to get more information on that. We do have crews on the ground, as you mentioned, Scott. They are on their way to some of these areas where we've heard damage reports, but you know, things are not moving quickly on the roads. And so it's going to take them a little while to get there. In fact, if you don't have to go out this afternoon, it's best just to stay put right now because the roads are very slow going. Here's what else we know about Chesterfield. Strecker Road west of Kerrs Mill Road, that's blocked by downed trees and power lines. Wildwood has had its issues, 109 and Bloom Farm Road, damage reported there. We heard large trees were snapped, a roof or maybe side of a garage heavily damaged, debris strewn, which follows that pattern you're talking about. And also that flash flooding in Harvester, which we know is probably much more widespread than just this one neighborhood, Jacob Station Road and Tower Road. But the neighbors there say there's like a foot of water in the yard. That's how high and fast it came up because of how heavy this rain is, Scott.
Yeah, and I think we're also seeing the rainfall rates decrease a little bit too. This is a look from 100 above the park, looking over Forest Park. The last time we showed you this camera in a storm, we were seeing debris flying over the side of the building. So, you know, we're not seeing that tonight, and you're not going to see that tonight from this for sure. Yes, Kay?
So the National Weather Service now telling us that since 2:15 p.m., they have received 1.58 inches of rain at the Weldon Spring office in St. Charles. This was over about an hour and 15 minutes. So that'll show you one report of how fast and how furious this rain is.
Yeah, and I think, you know, you're going to see things like that amount of rainfall, those heavy rainfall rates right now, they're pushing, you know, they've come across the Chain of Rocks Bridge. So if you're now, you know, over here by Route 3, that rain on 270 up here coming out of Illinois into St. Louis County, that is about ready to pick up and become blinding. And you have a blinding rain now that's about to take hold here all along 40 going out of downtown, going west. Out along Manchester Road, you know, we have water problems that are notorious in that area, Brentwood and Manchester Road, even though they've done all kinds of attempts, you know, to try to mitigate that. But you can see some of that heavy rain in that area right now. And so certainly Deer Creek and Black Creek have jumped up and jumped up high as well. So it's an ongoing situation. Our severe weather threat overall does not look impressive, okay? There are some setups that we see where the ingredients are there and we're on high alert. This is one of those days where you can get something rogue that develops, and that's essentially what's happened. And even these storms that extend farther to the south down here, as they're coming into Jefferson County, they are strong storms into South St. Louis County. Make no mistake about it. You know, there's some strong storms there. They don't look severe. They don't have the wind, and we don't see any significant, you know, surges in those storms. Anytime you see a surge, that's when we would be dealing with the potential of, you know, spinning something up or an increase in the threat of damaging winds. We don't see that on this right now. These are more of your run-of-the-mill, you know, good old-fashioned thunderstorms down here that are just producing downpours. And yes, there is some cloud-to-ground lightning in there. There's a fair amount of it, but it's not excessive. And we added that on there. The tornado warning is going to be allowed to expire here in St. Charles County. And again, as we've said the last 10 minutes or so, there's been nothing really that would indicate a signal for us looking at this wind field that there's any kind of big problem there. Okay?
Do we have a flash flood warning in effect right now, Scott?
We do for parts, far western portions of St. Louis County and into parts of St. Charles County. That does include the Harvester area.
Okay, and we continue to get reports from Harvester, a car stalled in water, water over the road in Harvester, the road not visible. And so this is how quickly the water is coming up there. And is it isolated to that area, or could that be happening in other low spots as well?
Well, it's possible that as, you know, these storms, your poor drainage areas here going down 44, any poor drainage area is going to have water problems. And that's coming into the city now. So really all along here, from Chaffetz Arena, really, let's just put it right from Enterprise going back to the west, you've got an area of torrential rain that is moving northeast. So the rainfall rates for a 15 or 20 minute period it's raining at the rate of 4, 5, 6 inches an hour. You don't get that much rain, but you'll get, you know, in 15 or 20 minutes, an inch, inch and a half. Our storm water systems and the drainage systems, the sewer systems, are not designed for that kind of intense rainfall.
Tornado warning canceled,
Okay,
which is great.
so they went ahead and canceled the tornado warning. And yeah, and as we look farther to the north, just, you know, out ahead of where that warning was, look at this. I mean, we're getting up here, we're up Grafton, you've had some rain. We're getting up to Godfrey, Lewis and Clark Community College, going up to Jerseyville, up west in Carlinville. There are some strong storms here, okay, but none of them are showing signs of rotation. None of those storms are showing a significant threat of severe weather right now. They are showing the heavy rainfall, okay? We may have some gusty winds in there that are 35 to 40 miles per hour out of some of those storms. Now, since we've had so many storms this spring, you do have a lot of loose tree branches, you know, still up in the trees. I think every time we have a gust of wind in my backyard with the trees, I get a bunch more, you know, smaller branches, occasionally a larger one that drops out because it was loose before and kind of dangling up there, and you didn't really see it and didn't pay any attention to it. So that's something else you have to kind of watch out for. But again, as we're looking at this radar, more of a heavy rain threat now. The flash flood warning, that includes Page Avenue Extension, Highway 94, from about Francis Howell High School, going up in through Weldon Spring, and then sliding on up into the city of St. Charles, up towards Earth City, and it does include portions of the Chesterfield Valley, because that's where the heaviest rain fell with that particular storm that was also producing the tornado and that tight circulation in that vicinity. So again, when we're looking at this now, just based on what we're seeing now, there's nothing that stands out as being significantly intense to severe levels. Are there strong storms? Absolutely. Okay, and for those of you here in the tornado-ravaged areas of North St. Louis and back towards Clayton and Richmond Heights, you're in the thick of the heaviest of the rain right now, and you may be looking at some 30 to 40 mile per hour winds. There is nothing at all that would make us think that anything in here at this point is rotating, okay? We don't see any dangerous rotation inside these storms. Now, we'll have to watch as this storm south of Kirkwood, if it tries to surge out and kick and spin something, but by the time it can do that, most likely it's on the other side of the river. If it were to do that, and that's a big if. But we know there's a lot of folks here that are still trying to pick up the pieces for May 16th, and that's been a stressor in and of itself, and this adds to the anxiety. So we just want you to know, right now we're not seeing any severe weather out of this, but we are seeing the heavy rainfall, and we are seeing at this point, you know, maybe some 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts with that. Not severe, but certainly strong. Kirkwood, Webster Groves, into Richmond Heights, that's the very latest radar image there. So 270, you know, your construction zone here at 64 and 270, that in and of itself on any given day is a mess. And so now you have the heavy rain in that vicinity, and construction zones are notoriously poor drainage situations, and this is torrential rain. So your commute this evening is going to take a lot of additional time out here. It's pouring at Mobap, it's pouring at Mercy right now, and your 270-40 interchange where you've got lanes scrunched up against each other and all that merging going on and trying to happen, it's a process, and it's going to be slow. And then look all the way down, 270 till you get south of 44. Once you get down towards Sunset Hills, it starts to ease a little bit into South County, but that's torrential rainfall. And that's moving into, Merrimack Community College right now, moving into Webster Groves. So you are going to get torrential rain here. There's no question you're going to get torrential rain. But as far as severe weather, those options appear exceedingly limited. One thing we like to look at is your winds. These are the Doppler winds, what the radar would be showing us at this point. You don't see a lot of bright green. You don't see a lot of wild colors on here. It's all kind of muted, okay? That's a good thing. You want the colors to be muted. We don't want any bright colors here. So we're not seeing any circulations in there. As far as any turbulence, yes, there is some turbulence. Leading edge of the storms, got some gusty winds, and maybe on the back side of the storms, that's potentially where there could be some gusty winds as well. But as far as looking at the shear where something might be rotating, look at that. Completely cleared off at this point. So that is good news for us right now as far as any rotation is concerned. Yes, these storms have a history of producing severe weather. The flash flood warning still continuing as we have water problems out in St. Charles County, city of St. Charles, going north along 94, going back towards St. Peters, you had some really heavy rain. In Cottleville, you had really heavy rain. The Weldon Spring Weather Service office had really heavy rain. Harvester, torrential rain. That has pushed off to the east, so now you can begin that draining process. Even though it is still raining some in those areas, it's not as heavy as it was. So as fast as the creeks come up, they will also go back down as long as the rain eases off and doesn't continue to flow over the same areas. We broaden out this perspective again, and I know our 4 o'clock news is coming up here in just a moment, and somebody will tell me exactly what time we're starting that. But just to broaden it out here for a second, the one flash flood warning is the only warning that we have in effect right now. Okay, the rest of these storms seem to have become subsevere. In fact, the one that produced the tornado has become even less than an intense thunderstorm as it's gone over Alton right now. It's eased up quite a bit. There are still some stronger thunderstorms farther to the north. We also have stronger thunderstorms that stretch back down and just to the south of Highway 44 here. And that's coming up from the Rolla area, moving through Steelville, moving over the Merrimack River Basin. So assuming that these storms keep moving kind of in the same general direction, as long as they can keep shifting east a little bit, that keeps the heaviest rain from going over the exact same spots over and over. If we see redevelopment and it brings more heavy rain over the same spots over and over, then we start getting into a more significant flooding threat and a more significant concern with water problems. Also, stronger storms are off to the east of St. Louis, but none of those over here towards the Kaskaskia River and around Germantown, north of Nashville, into just west of Nashville look severe at this point. So again, we're not looking now at severe storms, but we are looking at torrential rainfall. It is impacting areas that were hit hard by the May 16th tornado. There's your heaviest rain lifting north through much of that area right now. We will see this continuing to move to the north and northeast. You're watching 5 on Your Side.
This is 5 on Your Side at 4. Focused on you.
Right now, the St. Louis area just getting out of a tornado warning after strong storms hit the area. Thanks for being here. I'm Kay Quinn. Brent Solomon has the day off. We have reports of damage, including trees into homes in Wildwood and Chesterfield. We have crews on the ground checking those reports out right now. But let's get right back to Chief Meteorologist Scott Connell with everything you need to know about the storm right now. Scott?
All right, so we don't have any severe thunderstorm warnings in effect right now around our area. No tornado warnings in effect at this hour, so that's the good news. One flash flood warning. That includes a chunk of St. Charles County here from Cottleville down to Weldon Spring, up into the city of St. Charles, parts of St. Peter's. Those areas saw torrential rainfall in a very short amount of time, and so we had some pretty fast flash flooding there. But the water will begin to go down pretty quickly now that the heaviest rain has moved out of that area. Want to get you in tight on the metro area. Actually, go back to a broader perspective first, and then we'll get you in tight on the metro area. Everything's lifting from southwest to northeast, okay? The one storm that we had that became strong to severe around St. Louis and produced what we believe to be a tornado down in the Ellisville area, not too far from Babbler State Park. That storm has moved now into Madison County and is moving into Macoupin County in Illinois, and it has weakened considerably, but there are more strong storms that we will have to deal with, and more heavy rainfall too. That heavy rainfall over North St. Louis City, stretching back into Clayton, stretching back into University City, down to Kirkwood, into Webster Groves, sliding through the metro area. This is going to cause ponding as we head through the evening commute around St. Louis. So the bottom line is, while severe weather is not imminent, and most of these storms stay below severe limits, we did have that one storm that was able to get just the right ingredients at just the right time and create damage out in West St. Louis County, and we believe that to have been at least a brief spin-up tornado. We're not looking at anything like what we saw on May 16th at all. But we will be dealing with heavy rainfall this evening and occasionally some gusty winds about 30 to 40 miles per hour with some of these thunderstorms. That torrential rain, though, could be more of an issue, especially for the evening commutes.
All right, thank you, Scott. Right now we have a crew on the way to reports of storm damage in Wildwood along Highway 109. 5 on your side's Laura Barcheski is in our storm tracker. Laura, what are you seeing?
Hey Kay, we are on I-64 heading westbound. We're just about at Clayton Road and Lindbergh, and so we've seen some just heavy downpours. Those heavy downpours that Scott is talking about has slowed down traffic quite a bit here on 64. We have seen just a lot of people taking their time, which is exactly what you need to be doing. We have a lot of water on the road right now. It's kind of having trouble draining here on 64. We've seen a lot of people going slow. It's very good. Obviously, don't drive into deep waters that you can't tell exactly what's underneath. The road could easily get washed away, but taking your time is really important right now. Also, the visibility is very hit or miss. The rain has been so strong that we've had some low visibility at points here on 64. So really important just to keep it slow and take your time. We've seen some backup more on the eastbound side of 64 heading toward the city as well. So just want to make sure you're taking it slow, and we are headed out to some storm reports of damage near Highway 109, and we will follow up with you here when we get there. Back to you, Kay.
All right, thank you so much, Laura. So again, Highway 109, Bloom Farm Road, we heard of damage there. Large trees snapped, part of a garage damaged. Harvester has seen flash flooding. We're talking about cars stalled in water that is covering the road. The road is not visible. Some people have been reporting over a foot of water on roads and in neighborhoods. Remember, you can always get the weather impact forecast sent straight to your phone. Text the word weather to 314-425-5355. We will send you a link. Right now, law enforcement officials in Illinois are warning people on both sides of the river about a scam involving Ameren impersonators. 5 on your side's Tracy Hinson met with the Madison County Sheriff. She has more now on how you can protect your property. Tracy?
Okay, with an absolutely relentless storm season like the one we're in, it would seem plausible that electric companies might go door to door to inspect the lines that could be running through your backyard. However, if your electric company is doing that, they will be in uniform and in a branded vehicle. Madison County Sheriff Jeff Connor told us thieves are taking advantage of residents by pretending to be Ameren employees. The suspects, described as a white woman with an accent and a tall, thin man with dark hair, distract people outside their home by saying they are with Ameren and need to inspect the power lines. While the woman is talking to the resident about the lines, the man would slip into the home and steal jewelry and other valuables.
This is what is really, to me, sets this aside from other crimes, is that they're targeting the elderly. All 4 of our victims are between 80 and 90 years old. And to me, that's a sign of a low-life person that will target an elderly like this.
All of the victims were working in their yards when the suspects approached them. We're told that this might have also happened on the Missouri side of the river as well. In Edwardsville, I'm Tracy Hinson, 5 on your side.
Today we're hearing from Russ Faria's attorney after a former Lincoln County Sheriff's deputy was charged with lying on the stand, leading to Faria's wrongful conviction. Mike Merkel now faces 2 counts of perjury after allegedly lying about photographic and forensic evidence during the 2013 murder trial of Faria's wife, Betsy. Faria served 3 years in prison before the conviction was overturned. Betsy's friend Pam Hupp is now charged with her murder. Faria's lawyer says this is long overdue.
It's justice that's been due for quite some time. This is something that all prosecutors, all police officers should be aware of. If you do something like this and a man gets committed to prison for the rest of his life, you should pay a price.
Merkel's attorney called the charges, quote, a political stunt. Hupp is set to go on trial for Betsy Faria's death next August. President Trump's budget bill faces another obstacle outside of Congress. Elon Musk has come out and criticized the bill, bringing multiple other Republicans to his side. NBC's Yamiche Alcindor reports on the budget battle going on in D.C.
Today, President Trump's massive congressional bill taking 2 big hits. The first from close Trump ally Elon Musk, the second from the Congressional Budget Office. Today, the nonpartisan CBO projecting the spending package focused on the president's agenda will add $2.4 trillion to the deficit over the next decade. And lawmakers are reeling from the attacks by Musk, who called the bill a disgusting abomination.
We were texting one another, happy texts, Monday. And then yesterday, 24 hours later, he does a 180.
He's entitled to that opinion. We're going to proceed full speed ahead.
Musk, the architect behind federal government firings and the gutting of several agencies, says the bill is pork-filled. And some Republicans agree.
We're spending too much money. That's the reason we've got it in front of us right now.
Still, most GOP lawmakers are defending the bill, saying there's a lot more work and cutting to be done.
I think he believes, in my judgment correctly, that we're quickly becoming debt slaves. Having said that, I'm not ready to throw in the towel on this bill.
And while President Trump fights a battle on Capitol Hill, he is also trying to find a way to end the war in Ukraine. Today, he said he spoke with Russian President Putin for more than an hour. The president called it a good conversation, but not one that would lead to immediate peace. That's quite a change in tone from last week when President Trump called the Russian leader absolutely crazy.
I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin.
Back then, the Kremlin responded saying President Trump was suffering from an emotional overload. Now, peace talks continue as the war rages on. This week, President Trump is scheduled to speak with another world leader, China's President Xi. They are expected to discuss ongoing trade negotiations. Last month, the 2 sides lowered their high import taxes, but since then, the relationship has deteriorated. And today, President Trump posted online that he likes Xi, but that he's tough and hard to make a deal with. Yamiche Alcindor, NBC News, the White House.
A new lab is creating new opportunities for students in University City, how it's growing the curriculum. Plus, serving up help. Volunteers repair storm-damaged roofs for free. The restaurant giving their effort a big boost.
This 5 on Your Side newscast is brought to you by Glendale Chrysler Jeep Dodge and Ram, just a quarter-mile east of Lindbergh on Manchester. See daily deals at goodcars.com. That's goodcars.com.
If you've been in a car wreck, watch out. Watch out. The insurance company may try to tell you that you don't need a lawyer. Call me and my team. We'll watch out for you.
DM Law watched out for me and got me $375,000.
I've got this.
To Carol's anniversary, please.
Coolest shopping spree. Unbelievable deals.
Perfect timing for Carol House's anniversary sale, ladies.
University City High School got a big delivery that will help teach students about farming. Crews dropped off a smart farm system at the high school. The transformed shipping container gives students the ability to learn how to grow crops without having to go out to the farm. U City High is the first school in the area to have one. One teacher says it's a vital addition to help students get ahead.
This is groundbreaking, and it offers our students such an advantage. So they can learn so many skills, from growing produce to marketing to engineering. There is so many things this can offer.
School leaders say the farm can grow the equivalent of 3 acres of food and flowers. The village of Swansea celebrating the installation of 2 new bus stop benches. The benches are part of a push from the AARP in St. Louis and Citizens for Modern Transit to create better bus stops. Each bench has a specialized message and plaque thanking the sponsors behind the addition. Both groups have invested more than $700,000 in the project. After the devastating May tornado, how one local restaurant is helping volunteers fix people's homes.
No tornado warnings, no severe thunderstorm warnings, just that flash flood warning that will expire in about 17 minutes out in St. Charles County. The biggest damage report, large trees snapped, roof side of a garage. That was in Ellisville, Wildwood area. We're back in a few minutes to update you on the radar.
And tonight at 6:45 on 5+, catch the next episode of Mike Bush's podcast, and there you have it. He talks with 5 on Your Side sports director Frank Cusimano about his career at KSDK, what he had planned before getting into TV, and how he eventually landed the job. You can download the free 5+ app. It's on your Roku, Apple, Amazon Fire, or Samsung TV. Hundreds of roofs need repair in the wake of the May 16th tornado. Now one group of contractors is going out into the community to patch things up and make homes safer. 5 on Your Side's Rennie Knott shows us how a local business is helping them launch their mission.
Up and down.
We just haven't stopped.
It's repetitive.
From the beginning of the day to the end of the day, every day.
It's exhausting.
We're getting tired. We are getting tired.
But it is also rewarding work.
We're showing what community looks like here.
The climb to the tops of homes in North City.
Oh, hey guys, what are you doing up here?
To make their roofs complete again.
Houses with all types of damage, catastrophic damage, and we're just doing our best to put more than a Band-Aid on it.
And so many are damaged.
We're devastated right now.
A lot of people lost everything they possibly had.
After the May 16th tornado.
It is a big spread, and there are lots of homes that are in desperate need.
The work Jake and the crew is doing is free.
For free. It's everything. It's everything for us.
Thanks to the woman behind Katie's Pizza,
Katie is so connected to the St. Louis community.
Katie Lee.
It is her mission to give back and to make sure that the people of St. Louis and these communities know that we are here for them.
The effort is a relief.
I guess we'll start putting it over there.
For the people trying to survive.
A few people in here.
It's amazing, and it's doing a tremendous amount of difference.
100 roofs is the goal.
Our mission is to dry in 100 roofs in this neighborhood.
We're up to 34 homes in 17 days.
100 lives changed.
This neighborhood is important. This neighborhood is underserved historically.
St. Louisans relying on the endurance of others.
This is just a start.
And on their humanity.
A lot of us, this is all we have.
To keep their hope alive.
It's doing so much for us as a community to build us back up.
That was Rennie Knott reporting. Katie's Pizza is also donating 100% of the proceeds on Give Back Tuesday for the next 3 months to the effort. Give Back Tuesday falls on the 4th Tuesday of every month. Well, the rain didn't stop the St. Louis Cardinals from holding a skills clinic at Busch Stadium. The Nike RBI Clinic is a free baseball and softball league clinic for teens 14 to 18 years old. It moved indoors and the lesson plan changed a little. Instructors say the hiccup isn't stopping them from building baseball players.
We want the kids to have fun and play baseball and softball as long as they want to and learn a lot. But you know, hopefully we're giving them the tools and the resources that they need to, if they want to go on in the sport of baseball or softball, they have the ability to do so.
Over 60 teens were expected to participate. All right, not surprising, some plans are changing because of the weather. Just hours ago, the Whitaker Music Festival canceled tonight's show at the Missouri Botanical Garden. Organizers say the rain forced them to move the performance by Manos Pan America. They say next week's show will go on as scheduled. The garden holds concerts every Wednesday night this summer. And here's a great night. Kendrick Lamar and SZA will perform in St. Louis tonight. SZA was born here in this city. She visits the area often to see her grandmother. The Grammy Award-winning duo will take the stage at the Dome at America Center. So that's a nice indoor thing that's happening. We had quite an hour between 3 and 4 o'clock. Let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Scott Connell to recap everything that's happened in the past hour and a half or so.
Yeah,
Scott.
it's been pretty busy this afternoon. We're still looking at the heavy rainfall across the area, and that is over St. Louis right now, still over the areas impacted by the tornado on May 16th, but there is nothing severe showing up out of this right now. In fact, the only warning we have is this flash flood warning, which is out here into St. Charles County and far northwestern and western portions of St. Louis County. That expires at 4:30. I think most of the water there has drained off. The one big storm report that we had, well, it was that one there that was just west of 109, and that was with tree damage and trees on a house, and this was the storm that did it. This is going back. You could see that storm. We had a merger of two storms here, and as they kind of came together, you saw that surge out, and basically, whenever you get that rear flank downdraft surging out, if the conditions are just right, it'll create that dangerous spin. And indeed it did. It was brief. That's the good news. And it looks like that damage was very limited to that one area, but we've had a lot of water problems. We still have them ongoing. Chain of Rocks Bridge right now pouring along 270. Going to be a slow commute here in North St. Louis County and then throughout much of the rest of the area as well. None of this, though, is severe. Well, Lambert's peak wind was 41 miles per hour. I think you could look at some 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts with some of these stronger storms. They do stretch all the way down to the south. They're coming into Jefferson County. They go back back down to the south, and a new flash flood warning just issued because we have water going over the same areas over and over, and that includes parts of Crawford and Washington County. It's entirely possible as this area works northeast bound, if it doesn't shift a little bit from the heavy rain we've already seen, we may be dealing with flash flooding issues around the metro area later on this evening. That's what it looks like right now from the view above Forest Park, looking back to the west. It's still raining in St. Louis, and it will for a while longer. We still have those showers and thunderstorms coming at us from the south. If they go over the same spots over and over with that heavy rainfall, that training effect, it creates problems. Most of that will ease out of here, and we'll get tomorrow in without too much fanfare. But then on Friday, there's another focus for showers and thunderstorms, especially from around the metro area and points south. And some of that rain could be heavy at times. The greatest severe weather threat on Friday does look to be across southern Missouri, far southern Illinois, not so much into St. Louis. But again, as we saw today, you know, even though all the ingredients don't appear to be there, or they aren't there in spectacular fashion, sometimes Mother Nature opts for other things. 69 degrees right now in St. Louis. We do have showers and thunderstorms in the area. Tomorrow it's much more spotty in nature in terms of rain chances. Most of it will wait till tomorrow evening. We'll start around 60 and close to 80. Showers, some thunderstorms on Friday. Saturday and Sunday, the rain chances overall this weekend are fairly low. We can't rule out an isolated shower or thunderstorm, especially Sunday, but it doesn't look like it's an especially big threat. We're going to get most of our rain tonight, and then we'll get another batch perhaps on Friday. We'll see how it all adds up, but a lot of us have already seen our 1 to 2 inches, maybe getting another inch in some spots.
All right, thank you, Scott. Remember, you can get the weather impact forecast anytime on our 5+ streaming app. It's free to download and watch on your Roku, Apple, Samsung, or Fire TV. And we hope you'll join us for 5 on Your Side at 5. That's right after Jeopardy! Kelly Jackson's here with a preview.
Hi, Kay. In light of the Trump administration's directive this week for ICE agents to ramp up arrest of unauthorized immigrants, a local group is speaking out, voicing their concerns and support. Holden Kerwicki was at today's news conference and has more on the resources they're providing to help immigrant communities. Plus, student loan borrowers have more questions as the White House seeks to trim the Department of Education's budget. What that means for the future of federal student loan programs and those seeking financial aid. These stories and much more in about 40 minutes.
Turkish pachyderm gave shoppers in Thailand quite the surprise. This huge elephant was caught on camera entering a convenience store and helping himself to some snacks. The shopkeeper says he ate $25 worth of sweet rice crackers, bananas, even a sandwich. He's actually in the store there. The elephant moved on after about 10 minutes, causing, believe it or not, only minor damage to the store. Right, we're looking back at a great memory on Moment of the Day. Here's the day 1-year-old Jackson Webb enjoyed a trip to the zoo with his grandma Shirley Burnett. Thanks to Lacey for sharing this. Apparently, Jackson is one cool dude, like those khaki shorts. And another example of life imitating art. This is the wreath on Fran Notting's front door in St. Peter's. On the right, you can see the fake nest. That's part of the wreath's decoration. But look on the left. That was a little nest built by this finch right alongside the fake one. She even pecked and cracked the 3 fake eggs trying to get rid of them. That didn't work. Now Fran's waiting for the real eggs to hatch. That is
It's
priceless.
amazing, yeah.
Priceless. Show me your special moments. Email your photos. Love to see your videos. Send them to kquinn@ksdk.com. All right. It has been a busy afternoon for
It
you,
has.
Mr. Connell.
Yes, it has. Busier than any of us want it to
Yes.
be. Cardinals, they're not going to play tonight. They're postponing that game. They will do a doubleheader tomorrow. Flash flood warnings from Phelps County into Crawford and Washington counties now about to expire into northern St. Louis and St. Charles County, but you see there is more rain to go. None of this is severe at the moment. Heavy rain is going to be our biggest threat, I think, going into this evening, maybe some 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts. We'll be monitoring the radar. We'll keep you updated throughout the evening on 5+.
Going to be a slow rush hour. All right, that will do it for 5 on your side at 4. Jeopardy's next. We're back at 5. Hope to see you then.
Continue with us.
5 on your side at 5. Focused on you.
There is damage left behind in St. Louis County tonight after strong storms moved in over the last few hours. This video taken in the Chesterfield area, trees taken down. We've seen most of those damage reports in the Chesterfield and Wildwood area. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mike Bush.
I'm Kelly Jackson. Our Weather Impact team has been tracking the storms all day and evening into the evening. Let's check in with meteorologist Jim Castillo.
Yeah, hi guys. No more tornado warnings or severe thunderstorm warnings, but we do have some flash flood warnings. It's turning more into a heavy rain event, dark sky there right over St. Charles County. But even earlier, we saw some rotation within the cells, and here's the shear marker. There is Chesterfield and Wildwood and western St. Louis County, that yellow area going into North St. Louis County. That was the area of the potential tornado and likely tornado damage in this area here around Chesterfield and Wildwood. So we'll keep you posted on that. Damage coming in and reports continue to come in from that. Flash flood warning in effect for Crawford and Washington counties in Missouri until 6:30. Flash flood warning in effect for Phelps County until 10:30 tonight. So this is the current radar. A lot of heavy rain on it. And again, no tornado warnings or severe thunderstorm warnings, but boy, a lot of lightning in here. Moving into Jefferson County now in Missouri and Washington County in Missouri. We'll zoom in. The rain isn't as heavy around St. Louis, but still raining good and lots of ponding on the roadways. Glasgow Village to St. Louis and just northeast of Belleville. So we'll deal with rain and thunderstorms for the rest of this evening and more over the next couple of days. I'll have much more on that coming up in just a bit.
And Jim, we're getting a look at the damage left behind after the storms came through earlier.
Yeah, let's check in with Laura Barcheski. Laura, you're live in the Wildwood area.
Yeah, Mike and Kelly, I'm here in Wildwood off Highway 109 near Blum Farm Road. We have some trees that came down. That's been the most damage that we've seen. We had a pretty big one in this yard off Highway 109. They had some trees also closer to their home fall into their front awning. This person is not home, but their neighbor has told us they had a whole front awning in front of their house, and then the damage continues on to the back of the house, and it actually took out what the neighbor says was a sun porch. We see some other trees off in the distance as well behind that way. We heard from some neighbors that say most of the tree damage came down kind of at a diagonal right past their garage on down into the neighborhood back there as well. We have some power outages. It seems to be kind of localized though, not necessarily widespread in this area, but we will keep you updated as soon as we know more. Reporting live in Wildwood, Laura Barcheski, 5 on your side.
All right, let's take a look at some of the damage left behind. This is in the Chesterfield area. This is near Wild Horse Creek and High Point Road in Chesterfield. Multiple trees are down in that road, and it is passable, but you got to be careful. Also, trees down just west of that. This video was taken near Chesterfield Manor and Lehigh Meadows Drive. And so homes were also damaged in the storm. This is near Von Barron and Chesterfield Farms Drive. We saw shingles blown off some homes and some siding damage.
And we've also had some strong storms move through the area over the past few hours. Barbara sending us these pictures from the Hickory Ridge neighborhood that's in St. Peters. Rain flooded yards. The weather, though, has since gone down. You can always get the weather impact forecast sent straight to your phone. Text the word weather to 314-425-5355. We'll send you a link.
Right now, another twist on a high-profile murder case in Lincoln County. This case involves Pam Hupp, who's now accused of killing Betsy Faria. Betsy's husband, Russ, was falsely imprisoned for the crime and eventually set free.
Tonight, we learn a former investigator on the case faces perjury charges, accused of lying on the stand and putting an innocent man behind bars. Justina Coronel is in the newsroom to explain the latest on this. Justina?
Well, Mike and Kelly, this case has received national headlines from multiple datelines, podcasts, and even a show. And the 2011 case is still far from over. Just 24 hours ago, 2 new charges came forward against Michael Merkel, a former investigator with the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. These charges are connected to evidence in the original case against Russ Faria, who found his wife Betsy dead in their home, stabbed more than 50 times. During that time, Merkel claimed Russ cleaned up the blood at the scene and they took photos of that cleanup. However, in the first trial, Merkel said the camera malfunctioned and those photos were never produced. Russ was found guilty and sent to prison. Russ's attorney Joel Schwartz fought for a second trial, and it was then he received all of those photos. Schwartz claims the investigator lied on the stand knowing there was no cleanup whatsoever, which was the main point of the prosecutor's argument. Now, the current Lincoln County prosecutor is accusing Merkel of a cover-up, pursuing an agenda rather than pursuing the truth. Today, we sit down with Russ's attorney, who calls this justice.
He's thrilled that justice is occurring, and he looks forward to Pam Hupp's trial next summer. This was a long time coming, and like I said before, you can't play games like this with people's lives and people's freedom.
Now, Merkel's attorney also shared a statement saying his client is not guilty. He called this a political stunt and said he's confident Merkel will be exonerated. The Lincoln County prosecutor tells me more charges against other defendants will be coming. As for Pam Hupp's case in the Betsy Faria trial, that's expected to be next summer.
Today, a number of people took to the streets outside the Robert Young Federal Building and downtown to protest immigrant roundups taking place across the country.
5 News side's Holden Kerwicki joined us live in studio with more information on what they're hoping to accomplish. Holden.
Well, Mike Kelly, according to NBC News, the Trump administration has directed ICE agents to detain a minimum of 3,000 immigrants per day nationwide, though it's unclear how many people in our region have already been detained by ICE. Immigration advocates want people to know that there are resources available to help. Attorney Jessica Mayo with the MICA Project says Monday afternoon a number of her clients on government-approved supervision started receiving text from ICE requesting them to report for case reviews this week. According to Mayo, people across the country that got that text and showed up for their appointments on Tuesday, they were detained immediately and deported. She's encouraging anyone who got this text to first contact an immigration attorney, but she admits that many local attorneys simply can't take on the caseload.
There are not a lot of attorneys that have a business model that supports taking on a lot of detained cases, and there are a lot of people being detained. So even accessing information about next steps or what someone might be eligible to file for while they're in detention is really difficult right now.
We reached out to Immigration and Customs Enforcement in St. Louis multiple times, but have yet to receive a response. Coming up at 6, I'll explain why Mayo says that even people in the country legally are being left in legal limbo. Mike?
Holden, thanks. New tariffs shake up the economy, and experts warn consumers will feel the pinch on everything from cars to food.
The Senate continues debate on a new spending bill, the criticism that's coming from both sides of the aisle.
Plus, how plans for future budget cuts could affect your student loan repayment options.
This 5 on Your Side newscast is sponsored by Classic Air Care, making people comfortable since 1926. Schedule your appointment today.
It's funny how one little light can stall out your entire day. I was already running behind, and now this, the check engine light. So I reached out to my go-to problem solver. Dad, check engine light. What do? He didn't miss a beat. Take it to Telly, he said. So I did. When I got there, they didn't just fix my car, they fixed my day. They were quick, clear, and took care of everything. Next time my car glitches out, I'm heading for Telly. Don't let that little light be game over. Take it to Telly.
Tariffs on steel and aluminum are now doubled. Today they went from 25 to 50%. That's the highest level of tariffs on aluminum and steel since the 1930s. The U.S. steel industry says it's happy about the move, but experts say it could hurt the economy, especially since aluminum and steel are in so many products, from cars to home appliances and food and drink cans.
The thing these steel tariffs do is they help Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, of course, the Steelers, that's where they make steel. But I'm coming to you from just outside Detroit. And here we make cars and a lot of manufacturing, and almost every other part of the manufacturing sector uses steel.
Economy experts say higher prices could also cost steel workers their jobs.
Death by 1,000 paper cuts. That is how Democrats are describing a GOP spending bill up for debate in the Senate.
Tens of millions who would otherwise qualify for health care benefits would be mummified in new red tape, shortened enrollment periods, higher premiums, and weaker coverage. People will fall through the cracks and get phased out of coverage in the coming years.
President Trump calls it the big, beautiful bill. It cuts programs like SNAP and Medicaid. Even some Republicans are against the bill, saying it adds too much to the U.S. debt.
It's just not a conservative thing to do, and I've told them I can't support the bill if they're together. If they were to separate out and take the debt ceiling off that, I very much could consider the rest of the bill.
If the Senate makes any changes, the bill will have to go back to the House for another vote. The president wants to pass the bill before the 4th of July.
Proposed cuts from the Education Department, how some say it could hurt low-income students.
The allergy index, grasses and trees are high. Trees actually moderate, grasses and mold on the high side. So no more tornado warnings, but we do have some flash flood warnings in this front, just producing a lot of rain and lightning and thunder. Much more in our forecast coming up.
For the past 2 days, the U.S. Education Secretary has faced questions from lawmakers. Linda McMahon was questioned about proposed budget cuts. Those cuts will impact students at every level, including those paying off their loans.
It's leaving borrowers with a lot of questions, and tonight Karen Caifa explains how it could impact repayment plans.
Education Secretary Linda McMahon has been on Capitol Hill defending the big cuts that the White House wants to make to the Education Department's budget and facing tough questions from lawmakers in both parties as student borrowers, both current and future, chart the uncertainty.
The White House seeks to slash the Education Department's budget by 15%, and the future of some key federal student loan programs is on the line.
There are millions of people across this country who are just trying to stay on track of all of these changes.
Aisa Canchola Banez, policy director for the Student Borrower Protection Center, says the nonprofit is receiving borrower questions ranging from where to seek help as the Education Department has slashed staff to what President Trump's massive domestic policy bill, as passed by the Republican-led House, could mean for them.
This bill will massively eliminate the number of repayment options that borrowers have at their disposal.
The legislation currently under discussion in the Senate and the Education Department's budget request propose, among other program cuts, limiting federal student loan repayment plans to just 2 options, capping borrowing even for professional programs like medical school, and slashing maximum Pell Grants typically used by low-income undergraduates by about $1,700. Meanwhile, the Trump administration restarted collection of federal student loans in default last month, impacting millions of already squeezed borrowers. Matt Schultz, chief consumer finance analyst for LendingTree, says that could dent the overall economy.
There's no question in my mind that there's going to be a ripple effect in families' budgets as a result of these student loan payments restarting, because most people's financial wiggle room was pretty tiny anyway.
Both experts we spoke with said the best way for borrowers to navigate really any policy change is to research as many options as possible for both college funding and loan repayment. Keep track of balances before they go into collection, and for those having trouble keeping up with the bills, seek help from a lender or a credit counselor before that debt snowballs. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
It is the moment gamers have been waiting for. Right at midnight, the Nintendo Switch 2 goes on sale. The first one came out nearly a decade ago and it was very popular. This one has gamers already lining up at stores, including a few who were already outside the Best Buy in Brentwood today. The Nintendo Switch cost $450.
And tonight on 5 Plus, you can watch a new episode of my video podcast, and there you have it. And tonight, I sit down with our very own 5 on Your Side sports director, Frank Cusimano. We talk about his career at KSDK, which actually started before he worked here, and we'll explain that in the podcast. The truth is, you were telling stories for Channel 5 before you worked for Channel 5. So before we could hire Frank, and I didn't know Frank when I came here to Channel 5, Frank would message me from his job in Lexington, Kentucky, and he would say, I have this great story for you, and I think it would play well in St. Louis. There's some local ties, and he would send me these stories, and they were great, and we'd run them on Sports Plus. And there's a lot more to that story. You can watch the episode tonight on the 5 Plus app starting at 6:45. The app is free on your smart TV. Just search KSDK in your app store.
It looks like you're photobombing him in that graphic. Let's check in with meteorologist Jim Castillo. You're tracking the storms. We heard a roar of thunder.
Yeah, it rattled our teeth just minutes ago.
It did. You felt the building shake a little bit. Yeah, a lot of rain out there, thunder. We do not have any severe thunderstorm warnings, never really did. We had tornado warnings and still power outages. St. Charles County, really the eastern part of the county, and in St. Louis County, about 1,200 without power. And I'll show you exactly where we believed all that happened. Right around Chesterfield and Wildwood. This is a shear marker indicating the twisting with the winds and the possible tornado, which is more likely now throughout West St. Louis County. We watched that shear marker go right over North St. Louis County, and it looked like it was had lifted by that point in time. We still have a lot of rain out there. Flash flood warning in effect till 6:30 p.m. Crawford and Washington counties in Missouri, and then southern Phelps County until 10:30 p.m. So zooming in to the heaviest rain right now, you're getting at Arnold, Melville, Oakville, all the way down to Cedar Hill and House Springs and then Richwoods. A lot of heavy rain in here and also some frequent lightning right along 55. And in St. Louis, lighter rain at this point, but still areas of thunder and lightning in there. And then you go up a little farther north. Look at all this rain from Litchfield all the way through Ramsey and Vandalia, right along Interstate 70. Pouring rain. And in our southern counties here, so from Farmington all the way to Fredericktown, again, rain and some thunder and lightning in here too. So our front's laying across the area, likely going to stall out somewhere just southeast of St. Louis. So we'll watch the futurecast. It does look like we see a lull in this rain as we get into late evening and into the overnight hours, and even tomorrow, spottier rain in here, but mainly a lot of dry time. And here's 5:45 p.m. on Thursday, looking nothing like what happened today and what's happening now. So things are looking good. But then Friday, south of Interstate 70, even a chance of some isolated severe cells. We'll watch any thunderstorm activity early Friday, and then we'll likely see a nice Friday evening in here. All right, so tomorrow, look at this. Less in the way of rain, 20% chance of a spot shower. Temperatures in the 70s to near 80 degrees. North wind at 5 to 10. Severe weather threat, yeah, there's just an isolated threat. Southern counties tomorrow. And that front laying right across our southern counties, are possibly even right over St. Louis on Friday. So again, we'll watch for that risk of severe weather also as we get into Friday. So we'll watch that rain and thunder chance all the way into Friday night. Lesser chances into Friday evening, really, and also Saturday, 82. And then on Sunday, a front comes in, maybe a storm later in the day, 85. And then we're hoping for a lot of dry time next week, guys.
All right, we could use some dry time,
Yes.
Jim.
Yeah.
Well, it was a frustrating loss last night for the Cardinals, and now they'll have to wait even longer to get some revenge. Corey explains next in sports.
When you blow a lead like the Cardinals did last night, you probably want to get right back on the field to get that taste out of your mouth. The Cards won't get that opportunity today. They're rained out. They'll play a doubleheader against the Royals tomorrow at Busch. Things were going quite well for the Cardinals last night until they weren't. The Cards had a 7-2 lead in the fifth and then gave up 8 unanswered runs to lose 10-7. Perhaps lost in the blown lead was the encouraging blast from Nolan Gorman. It was just his second home run of the season. but could be seeing more of Gorman this month, and his manager is hoping the slugger can seize the opportunity.
He's been working hard, and I think we talked about it this next stretch of games, Leslie. It's going to be an opportunity where he can get a little bit more playing time because we don't have the days off, but it's good for him to go out there day one, feel good about a swing, and hit a homer. So, yeah, definitely a plus.
This 5 on Your Side St. Louis City SC coverage is sponsored by Together Credit Union.
Well, if you count last night's win from the U.S. women's national team, the home team has now won 2 straight games at Energizer Park. The chief residents of the stadium will be on the road this weekend, looking to win their second MLS game in a row for the first time since March. It will be game number 2 under David Critchley as head coach, and it won't exactly be easy. It's a Sunday night game on the road at Portland, who currently sits 5th in the Western Conference. After the whirlwind week for Critchley taking the reins, he's settling into the role and knows exactly what the goal is.
The overwhelming support from everybody, I mentioned it last week, but the overwhelming support from the fans, the community, people in my past journey in my life, it's honestly been overwhelming, and it's filled me with emotion, the support I've had, but yet I try to obviously just show up focused every single day, not let the emotion get carried away, because I have a job to do, and that job is clearly for me is to put this team in a playoff position.
Every single person loves and respects and honors you for is that she wanted it to be.
Bobbleheads weren't the only thing to help Becky Sauerbrunn celebrate her retirement last night. The Ladue native took a bow at Energizer Park in front of family and friends. She received gifts, and the current U.S. women's team brought a cake and sang happy birthday to her. The team also shared the phenomena known as the Becky Sauerbrunn look.
When you were looking at the bobblehead, say, do these even give you the Becky Sauerbrunn look? What's the Becky Sauerbrunn look?
You guys don't know the Becky Sauerbrunn look?
We're going to get it after tonight, I have a feeling.
Oh, God. When you do something wrong on the field and she doesn't even have to say it, she just looks at you and you're just like,
sorry.
I know. I'll do it better next time.
Fun night over at Energizer Park.
Oh.
Thanks, Corey.
All right, let's get the final check of weather from our birthday boy, Jim Castillo.
Yeah, you know what I always say on my birthday, there's always a tornado. It always happens. I'm not kidding. So today, unfortunately, we, it was a spin-up tornado and quick and weak, but still some thunderstorms out there. No tornado warnings, no severe thunderstorm warnings, but a lot of heavy rain, and you hear that thunder out there even through St. Louis. Some of the heavier rains moving back in, and our northern counties also. A lot of rain and thunder. Litchfield, Ramsey, and Scotty will have an update coming up at 6.
And happy birthday, Jim.
Well,
there you have it.
Thank you.
5 on Your Side at 5.
We'll see you back here at 6 on air and always on the free 5+ app. Have a great evening and be safe.
happy because I'm here.
AGT. This is 5 on your side at 6. Focused on you.
First tonight, a weather impact alert. Powerful storms ripped through the region, toppling trees, downing power lines, triggering flash floods. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Ann Allred.
And I'm Mike Bush. Let's begin our coverage with Chief Meteorologist Scott Connell. Scott.
Well, the threat of severe weather is over for St. Louis for sure. We still, though, have heavy rainfall, and we still have some flooding concerns, especially southwest of St. Louis here. We're down into Washington, Crawford County, and down into Phelps County. We have flash flood warnings that are in effect. That rain is still pretty torrential in those areas. These areas, especially with that hilly terrain, more prone to flooding, and there's some localized flooding even in the metro area. So we do have flood advisories continuing as these downpours continue to move to the northeast. But none of these storms is producing severe weather right now. In fact, the winds with them aren't all that strong. They are still producing heavy rain, though, around the St. Louis area. This is the area that had the brief tornado that spun up earlier this evening, a little after 2 o'clock. That was out here in the Wildwood, Ellisville area. Then it marched on to the north and northeast. This was the storm that did it as it surged in and zipped on off to the northeast. Back live. Severe weather threat now is minimal for the remainder of the evening hours. We will be dealing with showers and thunderstorms and locally heavy rainfall. That's going to continue for a few more hours. Don't drive through water-covered roads. We want you to stay safe this evening. We will see you in a few minutes, and we'll talk about what happens over the next 24 hours.
And Scott, some homes in Chesterfield have storm damage tonight. Mike Grasso sent us photos from the Chesterfield Farms subdivision. There are trees down in the area, and some of the homes have roof and siding damage. Let's take a look at some of the other damage left behind in Wildwood. Our Laura Barczewski joins us live. Laura.
Mike, we are here off Highway 109 near Blum Farm Road in Wildwood, and I talked with a St. Louis County police officer about the damage in the area, and he tells me they're mainly dealing with tree damage and power outages, which is what we've seen here as well. We saw some pretty big trees come down at this house, smashing through the front awning and sunroom. A neighbor tells us he doesn't think the homeowners were home at the time, but he himself got to safety just in time.
It got windy. The sirens went off, and we went to the basement and hung out there until it calmed down. And when we came out, Highway Patrol was in our driveway, wanting to know we were okay, and this is what we saw.
We also have heard there's some more damage back behind us in the neighborhood as well, but again, it's mostly trees down. And St. Louis County Police said near Strecker and Shepherd Roads, there are also a lot of downed power lines as well as trees, and they're asking people to be very cautious in that area. Reporting live in Wildwood, Laura Barczewski, 5 on your side.
We are following new developments in tornado relief efforts in St. Louis. Missouri lawmakers may deliver a much bigger boost than expected. Our political editor, Mark Maxwell, is monitoring the latest developments in Governor Mike Kehoe's special session.
When Governor Mike Kehoe called the House and Senate back to work, interrupting their summer break, he set out 3 big things on the agenda: tornado relief for St. Louis, restoring infrastructure projects that were scrapped in the heat of the moment during regular session, and tax breaks for the Chiefs and Royals in a bid to try and keep those pro sports teams in Kansas City. Governor Kehoe's big spending push dangles a lot of carrots to Democrats in Kansas City especially. To some members in rural and urban areas who feel their districts were ignored when that infrastructure bill went up in smoke, but especially to St. Louis Democrats who are eager to show up and deliver some tangible disaster relief. When Kehoe opened the bidding, the first number was $25 million for St. Louis tornado recovery, compared to roughly $1 billion in tax breaks for the billionaires who own the Chiefs and Royals.
I can just tell you $25 million is completely unacceptable. And I think it's insulting and offensive. And I'm not interested in talking about any stadium subsidies before we make the residents and the victims of the tornado whole.
That's the perspective from some local Democrats, but St. Charles County Republican Senator Nick Schroer, he suggests conservatives might not be on board with this stadium subsidy either, unless they can squeeze some other tax cuts out of the process. Those negotiations starting out in the Senate, expected to wrap up in the House, but still a long way to go before any of this becomes a final deal and reaches Governor Kehoe's desk.
There's There's a warning tonight for people with power lines in their backyards. The Madison County Sheriff's Department says criminals impersonating Ameren employees have broken into homes in Godfrey, East Alton, and Collinsville. Our Tracy Hinson is live tonight outside the Madison County Sheriff's Office with information on how the scammers are breaking in. Tracy.
So, Mike, a woman is impersonating an Ameren employee. She's then distracting a person who's usually out gardening or doing something outside by telling them they need to go together to go inspect the power lines in the backyard. While the woman is distracting them, her male accomplice is breaking into the house and taking jewelry and valuables.
This is what is really, to me, sets this aside from other crimes, is that they're targeting the elderly.
Madison County Sheriff Jeff Connor is mad.
All 4 of our victims are between 80 and 90 years old. And to me, that's a sign of a low-life person that will target an elderly like this.
The suspects?
The only way I can describe them is they're low-life predators that are looking for victims.
A white woman with an accent who distracts the homeowner by claiming she works for Ameren and then asks the homeowner to show her to the backyard.
We believe the male accomplice enters the house, possibly through the front yard or possibly through the garage, and then burglarizes the home.
Taking jewelry and other valuables while his accomplice keeps the owner distracted.
That's happened over the last couple months.
In Madison County, but possibly across the river as well.
We are working on some leads actively right now as we speak.
While the Madison County Sheriff's Office works to find those criminals, Ameren wants residents to know what to watch for.
The first thing a customer should remember, we're usually only showing up at your home if you have made an appointment.
That employee will typically have a logoed vehicle and will be wearing Ameren gear.
All Ameren personnel carry a badge. That identification badge has our names on it, our pictures, an employee identification number to identify that we are in fact with Ameren. And that should be one of the things that you ask for, that you look for.
She also said that any Ameren employee won't mind at all if you choose to wait, call Ameren, and to confirm their identity. She also said it's a good idea to lock your front and back doors while you're working outside. In Edwardsville, I'm Tracy Hinson, 5 on your side.
More than a decade after a notorious murder in Lincoln County, new charges spark another twist in the Pam Hupp saga. Hupp is accused of killing Betsy Faria after her husband, Russ, took the fall but was later exonerated. Now, new charges accuse a former investigator of lying on the stand against an innocent man. Our Justina Cornell joins us live in the newsroom. Justina?
And it's been more than 10 years since the original crime happened, and the latest update accuses Michael Merkel of perjury. He was an investigator on the original case, and charges say he manipulated the evidence, eroding the trust of the judicial system.
This was a long time coming, and like I said before, you can't play games like this with people's lives and people's freedom.
Russ Faria's freedom tested in 2011. No one knows that better than his attorney, Joel Schwartz.
He walked into his wife brutally slashed over 55 times, laying down on the floor.
Prosecutors pin Betsy's murder on Russ, but now we know Betsy's friend Pam Hupp is accused in that murder, becoming the sole beneficiary of Betsy's life insurance policy just days before her death. The evidence in the original case, though, is currently in question.
They had an agenda that they wanted to follow.
Lincoln County Prosecutor Mike Wood charged Michael Merkel, a former investigator with the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office, with 2 counts of perjury. Merkel is accused of lying about photos he claims were used for evidence.
They said that they was able to identify a trail of this luminescence in between the patio door where the dog was and areas of the kitchen. What they didn't provide, the defense was with the photographs that were taken from that day.
That evidence that they came back and testified to, that there was a cleanup in the house, is the evidence that the prosecution relied on to decide that they had enough evidence to move forward.
In the first trial, Merkel testified saying the camera malfunctioned and those photos were, quote, absolutely nothing. Russ was found guilty and sent to prison. Schwartz fought for a second trial, finally getting to see those photos.
There was evidence that any of that had occurred, and so the photographs didn't show that, and they knew that, so they hid those.
After 2 trials, 3 years in prison, and an overturned conviction, Russ is now a free man.
Russ is doing great. Russ is remarried, and he's in love, and he's working, and he's he's happy. He's thrilled that justice is occurring, and he looks forward to Pam Hupp's trial next summer.
Merkel's attorney also shared a statement saying his client is not guilty. He called this a political stunt and said he's confident Merkel will be exonerated. The Lincoln County prosecutor tells me more charges against other defendants will be coming.
Coming up, improving lives one red bench at a time. The project giving Metro East bus stops a much-needed upgrade.
Plus, forget tractors and fields. University City High is bringing farming of the future to the classroom. Two Metro bus stops in Swansea just got a boost thanks to a new project called The Story of a Bench. Citizens for Modern Transit and AARP St. Louis installed bright red benches at two busy stops, giving riders a place to rest. It's part of a larger effort to improve bus stops in underserved areas, with plans to add more benches throughout the year. Organizers say the small change could lead to big upgrades like shelters, landscaping, and more.
University City High School is the first in the region to install a smart farm system. The high-tech shipping container uses soil-free farming to grow the equivalent of 3 acres of crops with just a fraction of the water and energy. It's now part of the school's agricultural program, giving students hands-on experience and a path to careers in sustainable farming.
It is a farm in a box. And so we are able to control lighting, water, nutrients, and we're able to turn over and produce food at a much faster rate than you would in a traditional field situation.
U-City High is also the first school in both the city and county to offer a state-approved agriculture and tech program.
We hope you'll join us tonight on 5 Plus for the next installment of And There You Have It, our new video podcast. Tonight's guest, our very own Frank Cusimano, who's got some interesting stories. You can catch it at 6:45 right after Scott's extended forecast.
Today, immigration advocates took to the streets outside of the Young Federal Building downtown to voice their concerns over a new ICE operation to detain thousands of people every day.
As 5 on your side's Holden Kurwicki explains, there are resources available to assist immigrants, but their options are limited.
Monday started as a typical day for immigration attorney Jessica Mayo, but she says that changed around 4:30.
One of my clients received a text instructing him to report to ICE.
Though she admits that's not unusual since the person is on government supervision without a visa.
Their normal check-ins might take place once a year or as often as once a week.
She says what happened next across the country was unexpected.
The first round of people who reported on Tuesday as directed were mostly detained by ICE.
Since taking office in January, President Trump has repeatedly stated his plans to ramp up deportations.
We immediately halted all illegal entry and began sending every border trespasser and violator back to the places from which they came.
According to NBC News, ICE is launching a large immigration crackdown after White House Chief of Staff Stephen Miller reportedly screamed at ICE officials to arrest more undocumented immigrants, setting a quota of 3,000 nationwide per day.
ICE is not targeting this group of people based on any of the typical factors used to prioritize enforcement efforts, and certainly not the ones that the administration has told us they are using to target criminals or gang members.
Mayo says missing immigration appointments isn't an option.
As an attorney, I can't advise anyone to not go to an appointment, but if you are able to get legal advice before going, that's a great idea.
However, she admits even that can be tricky.
There are not a lot of attorneys that have a business model that supports taking on a lot of detained cases, and there are a lot of people being detained. So even accessing information about next steps or what someone might be eligible to file for while they're in detention is really difficult right now.
Reporting in St. Louis, Holden Kurwicki, 5 on your side.
And we're told if you're unable to afford an immigration attorney, there are options to have immigration advocates attend ICE hearings. For more information, you can look for this story under the As Seen on TV section of KSDK.com and the 5+ app.
Let's get back to that weather impact alert happening today. There was an observed tornado, of course, hours ago, and now we still have heavy rain in a lot of places.
Yeah, a quick spin up that we had out in the Ellisville area, really close to Babbler State Park, some damage out there, but it was one of those small, quick spin up tornadoes, and then it essentially lifted and moved on. But we've been left with a lot of heavy rain, and until 10 o'clock tonight, the heavy rain threats are going to continue for many of us. It's more of a localized area type of thing, although it does cover a good chunk of the region, but it's more localized flooding. But don't drive into those roads if they're covered with water. 6 to 12 inches of fast flowing water across a slow water crossing. That could really move your car and get you into trouble. That's what it looks like down in Arnold right now. It's pouring in Arnold, as it is across a good portion of Jefferson County right now. And then you have flash flood warnings that stretch from Phelps County into Crawford and Washington counties. We have flood advisories around the metro area, as it's mainly urban flooding that we're dealing with in the metro right now, as all of this water continues to move to the north and east. Not severe weather, though. We're done with that severe threat, it looks like. We've already seen in the last 24 hours, some spots get 2 to 3 inches of rainfall, and many of us saw 1 to 2 inches this afternoon. This is the metro area at the moment. You have some heavier rain in St. Clair County. You're also looking at some of the heavier rain in southern portions of St. Louis County, all lifting to the north. Cardinals not going to play that ball game tonight. They'll do the doubleheader tomorrow when the weather should be better. It is wet in downtown St. Louis. It is wet over the areas trying to do a little cleanup out here along Highway 109, Strecker Road, where we did have some of that damage from that brief tornado earlier. That's what the radar looked like as that storm rolled on through. This is what you're dealing with right now. The strongest storms are off to our south and east. They'll approach Mount Vernon, but it's not severe weather that we're looking at from here on out. This evening, it'll be some periods of heavy rain, and by 10, 11 o'clock, most of this is pushing out of the area. Overnight temperatures will stay in the 60s. Tomorrow, while there is a bit of a rain chance, the overall chances for rain remain fairly low through most of the day. With mostly cloudy skies, we see those temperatures topping out in the upper 70s, close to 80, with more warm, muggy conditions and a bit of a warm breeze tomorrow. High on the mosquito forecast. And then, yes, Friday, more rain will spread across the area. The greatest threat for severe storms on Friday likely to be to our south. And this weekend, there's more dry time than rain chances. 71, still a bit of rain, over an inch at Lambert. 81 was the high today before the storms rolled in. We'll stay mostly in the 70s tomorrow with a high right around 80, still right around 80 on Friday with some more showers and storms. Best chances for rain again after this evening will be on Friday. Weekend, plenty of dry time, but a low chance of seeing some showers and storms.
Okay, Scott, thanks.
Corey's next with the all-St. Louis duel for the Stanley Cup. Hear why Matthew Tkachuk says winning it once is just not enough.
The Blues aren't playing, but there are a couple of good reasons for hockey fans here to watch the Stanley Cup Finals between Florida and Edmonton, namely Chaminade's Matthew Tkachuk and DeSmet's Trent Frederic. Tkachuk and the Panthers are making their third straight appearance in the finals and are the defending champions. They beat Edmonton in 7 games to take possession of the Cup, and that's where Trent Frederic landed after being traded by Boston in March. The question for Tkachuk, what's the feeling like this time after having already won a Cup?
It makes you greedier. I said at the beginning of the year, like it was such an incredible, life-changing moment, and you just want to do it again.
You can just tell everyone's determined, and I've been through it. It seems like I'm new to it, but it seems like everyone else is, pretty focused, pretty relaxed. It's good to see.
The Cardinals will have to wait a bit longer to get back in action after last night's loss. Tonight's game at Busch Stadium against the Royals has been postponed due to the rain. The Cards and KC will play a split doubleheader tomorrow. The first game is set for 12:45. There was one athlete who got some swings in today, though. This is IndyCar driver Scott McLaughlin. He'll be competing here next weekend in the Bommarito 500. Today he took a tour of the Rawlings Experience out at Westport Plaza. McLaughlin was supposed to throw out the first pitch at Busch tonight. Hopefully he'll still get to tomorrow. I asked him about his pitching arm and his thoughts on next weekend's race.
I definitely can reach the plate, but I've done a few first pitches.
and I've gone a little soft. Like, I've made the plate, but it's a bit of a rainbow. So actually, I'm going to put some heat on this one this time. But hopefully I don't end up on SportsCenter. Especially now here at St. Louis, we've really managed to make the track, too wide, so we can actually run some really different lines and see a lot of action. So there's pyrotechnics before the race, and it's going to be nighttime. The cars always look spectacular. So I think this track's got a lot to offer.
That'll do for sports.
And the Bommarito 500, is that on Father's Day?
It is on Father's Day, and
Ah.
he just became a dad a couple months ago. His family's going to be there at the track to celebrate Father's Day.
Oh, that's cool.
And hopefully better weather than today. Yeah,
I
but
mean,
it's in the
we
evening.
can't get a break.
I know,
It's
I'm telling you.
nonstop.
It's raining still, and it's some pretty hard rain in spots, but no severe weather for the rest of the night. That severe threat has shifted away from St. Louis, so we just have to deal with the rain, flood advisories, don't drive through the flooded roads. Tomorrow should be a drier day overall. Again, not expecting severe weather tonight or tomorrow, Friday. Most of it should stay south.
And there you have it. 5 on your side at 6.
Thank you so much for being with us. You can watch us anytime on the 5+ app. Have a great night.
Continue.
Well, good evening, everybody. It has been a busy afternoon in the Weather Impact Weather Center. We ended up with one tornado, one storm that turned severe, and actually only briefly turned severe. The strongest winds we could get outside that storm where there was rotation that we saw anywhere, we only had really one little localized area of wind damage where we think we had a brief tornado touchdown, and then after that, the storm just went back to being a strong one. But until 10 o'clock tonight, we still have some pockets of heavy rain and some localized flooding threats that exist. We do have flood advisories that cover much of the area, including in the metro. So just a reminder that if there's water over the road, you don't want to drive into that. It doesn't take much movement on that water to be able to lift your car up. But rain's really been coming down this evening. There's a live look down in Arnold right now. And from the city going south down 55, you've run into some of the heaviest rain, especially going down here across portions of Jefferson County, spreading across the river now into Monroe and St. Clair County. Strongest storms, most intense thunderstorms are farther east of St. Louis, but you do have some pretty good rain rates here showing up down to the southwest of St. Louis that are working into the metro area right now. There's only one flash flood warning, and that's down into the southern portions of Phelps County. And at this point, your heavier rain is over there, so it's going to be more of a runoff scenario than it is going to be for flash flooding. But flood advisories now, Washington, Crawford, into Jefferson, Franklin, St. Louis County, city of St. Louis, basically where you're getting the heavy rain, poor drainage areas, you're going to have some water issues. None of this is severe, though. This is just moderate rainfall across the area right now, making for a less than pleasant evening in the St. Louis area. And of course, in the tornado areas that dealt with the May 16th tornado, you've seen a lot of heavy rainfall this afternoon. Today's little spin up was out in this area here, pretty close to Babbler State Park near 109. There's Stricker Road. That was one of the areas that was highlighted with some damage, little sporadic damage here. Pretty sure the National Weather Service will get a chance to do a quick survey on that, and we'll have a little tornado track out of that. But as the storm lifted up to the north, the circulation started to broaden out a bit, and it never really was able to get more intense or cause more damage other than produce an awful lot of rainfall in parts of St. Charles County and North St. Louis County as well. So we're still dealing with all that water. Got to get that to run off. The last 24 hours have been pretty wet. Some spots have already had 2 to 3 inches of rainfall. Lambert's come in with over an inch for the day. So, you know, a lot of that coming as we went through the evening hours. That's the storm. This is the one right here that produced that tornado. It was right in here where the tornado touched down. So if you look there and you just watch that storm as it's kind of surging out, there's just enough of a little spin there to ingest and get the twisting of the winds just right for that brief moment. I think we're going to have maybe a 5 or 7 minute tornado here that touched down on that leading edge. And then the storm weakened as it moved northeast and never really posed a severe weather threat in St. Louis City proper. Here's what's going on with that this afternoon, the time lapse looking into the Chesterfield Valley, and you see how the storm was rolling through and the clouds building in, and there's your surge. As the rain rolls in, you can see the low clouds and all that motion in the clouds spinning through there. You know, not sure, pretty sure we did not catch the tornado there, but you did have some of that low-level rotation definitely showing up with that as it moved on through. Here's a live look over in Highland, Illinois. Looks like Schweitzer Fest is going to be happening. Isn't that nice? Right in front of the camera, they post the sign so that I know what's going on and you do too. So this weekend, there's something you could put on your list over in Highland, Illinois. They've got the tent set up and everything. All right. Here's our future cast. The rain that's out there pretty widespread now will start to fade away later on this evening. And so later tonight, we start to dry out a bit. We're going to see temperatures holding in the 60s overnight with mostly cloudy skies. We may still have yet tomorrow morning a few showers, especially down to our south. But tomorrow is not an especially wet or unsettled day. It's mostly cloudy, just a small chance for a shower or thunderstorm. I think tomorrow night we may start to see some action ramping up back to our west and south, and then we'll get into that as we get on into your Friday. And Friday, the severe weather threat, once again, looks to be elusive for us. You know, today there was not a big severe weather threat in St. Louis. You did not have all the ingredients lining up to produce widespread severe weather. And we've had, you know, as best we can tell, just that one little spin-up brief tornado. The rest of it was just run-of-the-mill thunderstorms, 41-mile-per-hour wind gusts at Lambert. Even in the Chesterfield Valley, which was under, you know, the core of the worst part of that storm at one point, only had a gust to 35 miles per hour. Tomorrow, the mosquito forecast is on the high side because it's still warm. Now we've had more rain. On top of the rain we've had all spring. Mosquitoes are ready to populate. So we're thinking that as we head into Friday, we will see showers and thunderstorms, especially from the metro area farther south. But our thoughts are that the heaviest rain goes by to the south. Also, the thoughts are that the severe weather threat would be over southern Missouri, far southern Illinois, and just kind of flirting with our southern counties. Now, if we get a little more unstable than we think we're going to be, or if a complex of storms develops off to the west and tracks a little farther north, then that could change the severe weather threat as we head into Friday. But right now, it doesn't look like there's a big severe weather threat here on Friday. Tomorrow looks like it's relatively quiet. Friday, we'll have to deal with more rain at times. But then as we go into the weekend, we're thinking we're going to enjoy some pretty decent weather for the weekend. There's a look down Market Street right now. Still raining in downtown St. Louis. Cardinals called that game tonight. They're doing the doubleheader tomorrow. 71 is the current temperature. The wind actually is calm now at Lambert. 81 was the high. That was before the thunderstorms rolled in. 69 the low. Over an inch of rain, but keep in mind some of that occurred after midnight last night. Here's your forecast for tomorrow. Some spot shower chances. Overall, the shower chances are much lower for tomorrow. Temperature 8 o'clock at 67, 11 o'clock we're at 71. Then we go into the upper 70s during the afternoon. We're going to try to break out into at least a little bit of sunshine as we head into tomorrow. Here's the 7-day forecast, and I'm going to get you over to the 10-day forecast in just a few minutes. But here's the 7-day. Spotty showers tomorrow. You do have showers and some thunderstorms on Friday, much more likely, and the greater likelihood of it being to the south of St. Louis for sure. All right, definitely south of St. Louis is what we're looking at for those rain chances here as we head into Friday. And here's the rest of those 10 days. Saturday and Sunday, the rain chance is not zero, right? There is a chance on Saturday, about 20% that there'll be a spot shower or maybe a rumble of thunder, but it's a low chance. It's a 25 to 30% chance of seeing a couple of showers and thunderstorms on Sunday, and we're in the mid-80s. Next week is not especially warm to start. Monday, still a pretty low rain chance. Tuesday, Wednesday, we're thinking it's mainly dry weather for most of next week, but again, it's going to depend on how things go with your complexes of thunderstorms and how they tend to evolve here as we go through the course of, next week. And at this point, you saw how it was today with the thunderstorms that developed. Looking at what we were looking at this morning, you wouldn't have put out any kind of, raised any red flags that this afternoon was going to be anything special. But you never know. All right, here's Friday's severe weather forecast. And you see we're kind of on the fringes of it. We were on the fringes of it today. But if you're down in Madison or Iron, Reynolds County, those are the areas we'd be more concerned. So Friday night, if you've got camping plans down that way, that's an area to be concerned with. You're going down to, Elephant Rocks for the weekend or Johnson's Shut-ins or Tom's Hawk. Those are the spots to be a little more concerned with as we head into this weekend. As far as right now goes, again, we're tracking this rain across the area. None of this is severe. None of this will become severe as we go through tonight, with the exception of this storm over here by Mount Vernon. That may pop a severe thunderstorm warning at some point over here in the Mount Vernon area in Jefferson County, Illinois. But what's around St. Louis now? You have rain-cooled air, so now we've cooled off the air. You're not going to see, strong storms. You're going to see downpours and some rumbles of thunder and you're going to get some pretty heavy rain. But it will be ending from west and southwest to east and northeast as this area pushes through this evening. And it's about on schedule, too. So again, the only areas that we would be a little more concerned with, those areas down, especially over Red Lake and down south of Mount Vernon right now, that's where the strongest storms are. And this area here, farther east of St. Louis, has not been worked over by rainfall earlier. So this atmosphere, this air out here, is a little more conducive to these storms having a little more punch to them. But we're also getting to the point where the sun's getting lower in the sky. We're past peak heating of the day, and that helps to keep these storms from getting too carried away. Like we said earlier today, the overall ingredients for tornadoes in St. Louis, very much on the limited side. You don't have a lot of strong wind shear aloft. You only have some low level, a little bit of low level spin was kind of on the marginal side this afternoon at very best. But, you know, normally you don't see that kind of stuff pop up. But back into the metro area, all this moderate rain we got to deal with. It's continuing to slowly, about 30, 35 miles per hour, push off to the north and northeast. And that's what we're going to deal with here over the course of the next hour or two. So wet weather, umbrellas for sure this evening. Try to just make sure, in fact, just got a report out of Cedar Hill, well, Dittmer actually, 3 inches of rain since 4:45 this afternoon. So, you know, I think you're going to see a lot of the creeks and streams continuing to jump down here. And the lightning's on, and you notice you don't see a huge amount of lightning bolts in here because there's not. It's just a few, and it just rumbles. But Dittmer's already had 3 inches of rain since 4:45 or 2:40. Let me go look and see what that actually said. Since 16:45, so since 4:45. So, you know, that's in 2 hours, 3 inches of rain. You can bet Joachim Creek's up. You're probably going to see some pretty significant rises on the Big and the Burbus as well. Probably not above flood stage, but at least significant rises, and the creeks feeding into those rivers will certainly be jumping up. We still have some heavier rain out here around St. Albans, moving into Wildwood. There's still a little more out here by Marthasville that's got to get through St. Charles County yet, so you still have a little ways to go. We're probably, it's really between now and 10 o'clock. That's what we're thinking in terms of our threats for this heavier rainfall shifting through the area. So mainly a water threat at this point. Don't drive through any flooded roads as we head through the remainder of the evening hours. We'll keep our eyes on the radar. We have part of it, the little loops kind of scrolling through on KSDK.com for you this evening. And we will see you tonight at 10. Sooner if we need to.